Okay, and we are a go. Welcome back to AR's Tales, aka the A.R.T podcast. I am A.R. Mirabal. I am joined today with Seymour. You may know him on his Reddit username as Maker of Stories. He just finished his book of Blood and Steel fantasy. I have been reading it. It's phenomenal, great read so far. Uh, and we're gonna talk to him a little bit about it. Seymour, how you doing?
Hello, and that's me. I'm Seymour. I'm alive. I'm real. That's the most important part because you never know on the internet if people are real, if those Reddit users are bots or something.
Yeah, you really never know, and that goes just on anything. Instagram, Twitter's another one that you just like randomly see people just like pumping out like tweets that have like thousands and thousands of followers, and you just like it's like almost like it's a computer almost. It's like robotic. It's like if you're a real person,
It's not that
you
easy
must
to
live like
bypass.
this. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not easy to bypass. It's just because like if I want to create like a new, I don't actually know if I can create on the same email the new Reddit account. Um, but listen, it's possible somehow, some way. But I guess you'll know more about this because but you're not that kind of engineering, are you?
No, and I'm glad that you actually like understand that anytime, and that goes to any entry level engineer. Anytime you join a company, they never know what to do with you. They're like, "Oh, engineer, yeah, any problem? My phone's broken, my car isn't running right, my cat was hissing at me this morning. You know something? You're an engineer, motherfucker. What's up?"
All right.
That- that's all. It's always the response, and it's like, dude, I don't know any of that.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you've been like keeping it political, I guess, and relevant, but it's not going to be relevant maybe like in a couple of years. But have you been following up the what they're doing with the Congress has been asking Zuckerberg and the Twitter guy about like, well, somebody logs into my Twitter and posts a picture, and it's not true. It's like, dude, like, how can you moderate somebody else posting on their end, right? It's difficult.
Oh, dude, the whole privacy thing going on in the United States and in just the world at large. It's actually a conversation I had, man, I can't remember with who, but just the ramp of technology is much faster than anything that we can make laws for. Like when the
Exactly.
like when the cars came out, like the technology of cars didn't rapidly advance so much that we couldn't keep up with the advancement of cars. Like when the cars first came out, there weren't uh whatchamacallit, street lights. That was an advancement that we had. It wasn't immediate.
Hmm.
So, but we had enough time in order to ramp up with that. There were enough cars in the streets that it was chaotic, and there were thousands and thousands of people dying a year without the need of street lights. But when they added it, it was an obvious infrastructure change, and we were able to like go up and go further. The
It's a
phone
thing. Yeah, it's the
is
things
much
that
faster than that. Everyone has a phone. If the phone went the same way as a car, then the laws would have been a little smoother. But we went from a couple thousand people having a phone to every single person. Laws are now you can do crazy things on your phone. You have to renew your license through your phone now, basically. Things like that are like state run are now through a smartphone that wasn't a thing 15 years ago.
yeah, and the other thing you mentioned is that with the progression of time, things like we now for sure for granted, like it's pretty obvious for us there should be laws to protect people from being overrun by a car. Back in those days, people were like, nah, we don't need them for now. Like, or to figure this out, it took them a while. And once things went to shit, they're like, okay, we probably need some kind of laws here. You know,
Yeah. Uh, I don't know if you know the story of jaywalker. Do you know that whole like how that term came to be?
no, I have not, but I guess I'll find out now.
Well, like the how it happened was actually complete propaganda. So Ford came out, and at the time there were there weren't any crazy like laws for motor vehicles or anything like that. So a random kid got ran over, and the mom was like stirring up a whole storm. She was trying to get the town rally behind her to just ban cars, trying to say that they're too rampant. How can we ever survive with something just like going like that? And then what Ford did is that he paid the newspapers to turn the story around, and instead call the kid a jaywalker. A jay was like an offensive term back in the day. It was like calling someone, it was like a derogatory thing. It was like, oh, he's a jay. So they called that kid a jaywalker. Like, oh no, he's an idiot for walking on the streets. Like that's what cars are for. So they turned the story, and now here we are, however many years later, and now it's a law.
Yeah, as sad as it sounds, propaganda works. You know, propaganda works. That's the reason all the big authoritarian dictators keep using it because it works.
It really does.
Yeah.
Um, so I let me go. Let's get into the novel of
Oh
Blood
boy.
and yeah, of Blood and Steel. No, I have to tell you, I loved it. Was unreal. I loved your description of food. It's such a weird, yeah, it's such a weird thing to like point out, but
Were you hungry when we were reading? That's why.
no, I
You're like,
had just
yes, I'm really hungry.
no, not at all. But it was one of those things that it just it was such a nuance, and it just pulled me in. I'm trying to remember like the specific line. The what cow's feet that had soaked in water all day while the I can't remember his name. Uh,
So the guy who was that food came up in the prologue when the family was cooking it with
yeah, Sona.
Ruben.
Sona had yeah.
So and then Ruben,
Ruben.
yeah.
I'm sorry, Ruben. So
Oh, no worries.
yeah, yeah. So the cow's feet that was soaked in water all day while Ruben was in the farm, and just like the description of him being so dirty but yet being so happy that he's home, and just like again, it's a weird. I know it's almost a weird thing to like call to note, but it was a thing that I know it immediate. How did that come to be? I mean, it's not something that I frequently note. That's why I had to note it.
Well, the cow's feet is also something that doesn't sound very appetizing. That's the
Mm,
other thing. I was like, I need some kind of food that's not appetizing, and I was just googling some feet that can be used for food, and it's not a secret that the food history and people of that story of Blood and Steel are based entirely on the people who live in Caucasus, which is Georgians, the Armenians, the Azeris, and by default, it became also a lot of Persians because that region has always been, you know, being taken over or switched hands between so many different people, and primarily Persians. Persians were one of the early people there. So if you look at this particular food and this particular family, they're based on the Armenians. So Ruben is an Armenian name. Sona is an Armenian name, though it can be also used in Azeris. And that's partly the problem. Sometimes it's hard to differentiate because like even within that region, because it's not a very huge region. It's only 3 countries, but in terms of the ethnic diversity, it's pretty diverse. So there's Tatars, Circassians, ethnic Azeris, people from Karabakh. There is so many ethnic diversity within that region alone, so that I need to find of kind of like take from everybody a little bit so they don't feel left out, which probably becomes a bit of a problem because people like start to question which is who, because sometimes it's a combination of things because I need more. And it's the same like how you create characters. You're just going to have to sometimes combine characteristics of multiple people to make a fully fledged character that sounds interesting. So he cannot be one note or have one shtick that he does. Because as people, uh, we're very in our attitudes towards things and our opinions or our quirks. So there's that. So yeah, so that food once again came out from uh, some kind of Armenian food. I don't remember exact name, but that's the other thing. I tried to use the description more of the food than the name, because if I tell you the name, you're not gonna know it. You'll be like,
mm.
"What the hell is that?" You can't. It will break the illusion. You're reading the book, you're immersed. Oh, there's a word I'm not familiar with. I need to go back, do some research. What does it mean? Google it, and I don't know exactly what search results you're gonna get, because as we talk with technology, probably every person has different results popping in for them. So I needed to describe the food and then give it a name within the same uh, page. So you first read about what it is, and then maybe if it's gonna show up again, I have to give you the name. So every time I mention it, you immediately get, oh, I already read about this food and how it, and I get a better understanding what it is. So when I see that word again, it makes sense what it is. It just it for me it felt like a common sense. I'm trying to sell this book to English speaking audience. The book is written in English, so I need to describe it and explain it before I give it a name, and then going on, you know what it is, right? Instead of going from giving the name and then describing it, it felt like more textbookish.
No, yeah, I completely agree because I had that immersion completely in there. What Sona was making was that she was beating dough to the clay pot when she was when Ruben was walking in,
Yes,
and she made that into a flatbread. So she put the stew with the cow's feet soaked in water out on the center, and they ate the flatbread with radishes, carrots, and some other vegetables. So right there, you just get one a regional aspect, a cultural aspect of what you were talking about. Of it's like, all right, we're doing that over there. You know, if it was in a different region, and maybe it'd be a chicken and potatoes, or whatever they have. But we have a geological stamp, one, but then two, you get a time stamp, because if we were to go to that time frame right now, they're probably eating a little differently. So you get,
absolutely, yeah.
yeah, so so you get an immediate timestamp too. So that's what I said, that it's something that I had to know, because there was an immediate immersion thing that immediately snapped me there. So kudos to that immediate, awesome for that. And another thing I had to know, uh, and it's something that is very particular and it's awesome, is that you made your character Georgie. Is that how you pronounce it?
I pronounce it Georgi, but it's fine if you pronounce it
Georgie.
Georgi. Yeah,
Georgie. Okay.
that's more of a
Italian?
Georgian, a Georgian. That's
No,
it.
my pronunciation was more Italian, right?
Yeah,
Georgie.
yeah, your reference is more Italian, but that's the thing
Yeah.
with also, as I said, is that these names and concepts are they're very. I mean, Ruben is Robin, right? It's pretty similar.
Okay.
Like a lot of things are like, I think like as I was doing my research, a lot of that felt like a single name is kind of similar in that region in Caucasus, but then also in English they have their own version. So Ruben would be Robin. Um, I'm not sure what Sona would be. Sonia maybe.
Hmm. That actually that does work. That makes sense, because like now Sonia is like a pretty common name in that region, right?
I know a lot of Sonias from that region, particularly. It could be. I mean, that's the thing with names; they just sound, I guess, similar, and but because of different languages, the spelling and pronunciation could slightly diverse. Like you said, Georgie, right?
Mhm.
Yours is more Italian, but that's why I don't want to call it wrong, because there is no right or wrong when you read something out loud. That's how you first pronounce it. I pronounce it Georgi, but with more like a harsher guess sound. But with your Georgie, it's totally fine too. I don't have a control with that. Once it's written and how you pronounce it, you have your own canon in your head, right? This is how I'm going to pronounce this word going on forward. And that's, once again, only film can change that, because film you actually get to say that, or the audio drama. But with books, if you read it that way, I'm not going to tell you that you're wrong, because that's how you read it, and that's totally fine.
Yeah, that's actually oh man, so much to pull apart on that. But to get back on the thing that I was saying about Georgi,
Yes.
is that you made him a badass, but without making him a Mary Sue, which is a thing that I sometimes see in like fantasy works, where they'll make their character seem so incredibly badass that he seems like there is nothing that can take that man down. There all the obstacles that he faced, we know that he's gonna face them. We know he's gonna conquer them at the end. But you made your character just like that, with a hint of like, all right, there's a real character behind this. There's not just this almost plot device that I'm just gonna move across the elements, and you're gonna see him victorious. There was something real about the character. That was another thing that I definitely want to give you kudos for.
No, thank you. Just to be clear, are you talking about Georgi or Balak? Because Balak is the main character, but Georgi is the one who finds him.
Well, I'm talking about Georgi because I loved how the introduction was like immediate, like that
Oh, okay,
badassery. Yeah,
okay,
that's what
okay,
I'm
got you.
saying. No,
Yeah,
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 that's what I'm saying, and that is even a higher call, because it immediately goes to to the story of Balak.
yeah, yeah.
But the introduction, the fact that you made that character with that badassery, and then it's almost like a side note
Yeah,
that
he
is
is a yeah.
yeah, that's what's crazy. That's like the point. That's the kudos that
Yeah,
you
thank you.
you didn't make it seem like it was almost like a shorter term investment of Ned Stark type of thing.
It
You know
is,
what I mean?
yeah. Like we
Yeah.
need to kind of give like a because the fate of Ned Stark is pretty short lived.
Hmm.
I have a poster of Game of Thrones over there. Is that what you
Yeah.
said, Ned Stark?
Oh well, I noticed it earlier, but it actually gave me the thought of it while I was reading the book. It was a shorter term investment of Ned Stark because you actually believe in the character and you're like, oh yeah, that's a cool character, and then it goes in to Balak, and I actually liked how it transitioned because he like uh Georgi gave this like impression that he actually really likes that character, and then he as he's
Yeah.
walking away, he's like, all right, yeah, I can. Oh yeah, I have some coins. There's a bar around as far, it's not far away from this guy and his nagging.
Hmm.
I loved how he immediately just went to that switch of like, oh okay.
Yeah, it's the reason why is because I wanted to introduce Balak, and people said you should start with him because it's similar with film. The character you began the story with, he's the main character, he's the protagonist. But I wanted to appear Balak to be more intimidated, like a bit scary. So, you know that scene from X-Men when we first in the very first X-Men movie by Bryan Singer, I think 2002, when we first get introduced to Wolverine in this shady bar where he's fighting in a cage. Remember that scene?
No, I actually haven't actually really been meaning to watch like all the X-Men's.
Uh,
That's the one Marvel franchise that I didn't like delve into and watch like 9 times.
well, I guess small spoilers. That's basically the scene when we first get introduced to Wolverine, which later becomes the kind of a main character throughout the entire franchise. When we first introduced to him, he's not the first person on screen. I mean, the very first X-Men movie begins with Magneto, then we jump to Rogue, and Rogue is the character who gets introduced to Wolverine in that cage, and we ourselves don't know if he's going to be on our side or he's going to kill us, right? There's this threat, like he might be friendly, but he also might punch me in the face. So that's kind of the feeling I wanted to the audience to feel that, oh, here's a Balak. He's some guy fighting in a cage in a very deadly match, but people don't like him because he's always winning. So there's this kind of tension, like, oh, is this guy is the good guy? Is he a good guy, or is there something bad about him? And the answer is he's both. He's flawed human being.
Man, that's awesome. So how did you all right, so that kind of leads me to the question I was gonna ask. How did you develop the actual world of the story?
Um.
How did that come to be? Because I want to delve into the hollows in a little bit. How you got into
Okay.
that? But
All right.
that's a separate thing. I'll
Yeah. Yeah.
definitely we'll definitely get into that in a little bit.
So the first step was this story kind of came up to be as like a mashup of things I like, mashup of things, the stories I have written, but well, not written, but like play around with. Like, oh, would it be cool to have this character in some epic story that I will never write? So I took that, was like, okay, nobody knows it except for me. I'm just might as well just steal it from myself. That's like the shortcut. Like, I don't have a story for this, so I might as well steal this character, put this in this story. Just change the appearance and whatever. So the way because it's my first book and I was really not knowing how to kind of put the character in the story and have a world building, and it's a fantasy, it's a different world, so they need to know stuff. The most easiest way to do it is to have a characters travel from the place they are familiar with to the place they are not familiar with. A good example would be God of War from 2018. He is in a shed. Have you played the game?
Yeah, God of War, of
Okay,
course.
so how does it start? We know that Kratos and his son live in a small environment where they're protected by. They're in a safe environment that they can control, and that it doesn't have really too much of supernatural things going on. But once they leave it, but the whole quest of there is to go to the highest mountain and spread the ashes of their dead mother. So they're and as they travel, we get more of a world building. We get encountered by characters that don't like us. We go to places that we're not familiar with. We encounter dark elves, some puzzle elements, a severed head of some guy. We have to chop somebody's guy's head. So you see, and the same concept can be applied with The Last of Us. They're in a place that they know, they're familiar with. They have to travel through to the, I think, the east coast of US. I'm not sure familiar which coast they have to travel to, but essentially that they have to travel from a place they're familiar with to the unknown, and across that unknown they encounter characters like bandits, cannibals, and just infected zombies. The same concept I kind of try to apply here. It's a very easy way to introduce your world because you're taking something that we're somewhat familiar with, which is the Hollow. We spend about 3 to 4 chapters there, getting allocated to the location, and then I take you out of it and tell you, okay, now we're going to go to a different location, and this allows me, as a writer, to introduce you to new elements. As the characters encounter the new elements, so is the reader encounters them. So if the character shows up that they don't know, and neither do you, he's as strange to you as he is to them. And that's why it's easy. I guess it's an easier way to build your world building. It's very gradual. It's not, I'm not trying to mention to you something that's millions of miles away that you will never gonna see or encounter. I'm telling you, I'm building the world as they discover it and as you discover them. So they know as much as you do. And I think that's the way I decided to structure my story, uh, because it was I guess it was easier. It was easier for me to, and it made sense to me that if it's the first time writing a novel, which is a very big and complicated task, in order to simplify the world building and make it easier for the reader, I might just, not tell you everything about this world. I'm not going to explore every single city, but only the cities we're visiting and only the people we're meeting are going to be explored. The rest, I just felt like, why even bother? In the first, I think, second chapter, when we talk about Mystic Forest, they do end up visiting a Mystic Forest, which is that kind of felt, more obvious. The Iron Gates is going to be visited, but any other location, I'm not even going to mention because there is no point. We're not going to go there. We're not going to encounter it. This is a one and done story where all you need is within this package, and anything else that's not going to be important is not there. So yeah, that was kind of my way of trying to build this world, is through the character. As the characters encounter them, so is the reader. Simple as that.
That is a phenomenal deconstruction. Because I'm thinking back to stories that I really like, and you're right. Because my Mount Rushmore of because I'm a sci-fi guy, sci-fi
Mhm.
fantasy. That's my whole shtick. That's my whole thing.
I should show you my collection of fantasy sci-fi I have.
Oh, dude, I gotta show you because now that I know you're into comic books, I just got a whole stack of comic books from this guy. Like they're still in their package, really cool looking. I'm actually thinking of giving them away. I don't know how, but I was thinking of
You can
giving.
give them away to me. I'm not a listen, bargaining, sure.
No, yeah, we'll definitely go back and forth on that. But
Yeah. You were saying about Mount Rushmore?
oh yeah, my Mount Rushmore. Thank you for that. Because I definitely got lost in the comic books. I'm like, oh yeah, I definitely want to see the sci-fi connect. I definitely want to see his collection. But my Mount Rushmore of sci-fi is Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I don't know if you ever read it.
I'm familiar, not and I've seen the movie. Haven't read the book or listened to the audio.
Yeah, movie is great too because the movie. I mean, the book obviously has a lot more like phenomenal writing and like a lot more cool nuances, but the story is still the same thing in still a few different things, but for the most part, it's actually pretty true to the book, to the source file, source script,
Source
whatever you want to call
material.
it, source material. There we go, source
Yes.
file. That's when you know you're working with too
We're
many
gonna
graphic
fix it and
artists.
edit in post. That's what we
Yeah,
always do in film. Fix it in
that
post.
exactly. That's when you know you're working with too many artists. Uh, um no, but because you're 100% right. He starts off in Earth, his hometown, and then the immediate drama is finding out, oh, they're gonna tear down my house, and he's like, oh, well, I don't want that to happen. And then his kind of like where it deviates a little bit is that his number two, he actually finds out his number two isn't just his best friend, but is actually an alien, and his connection to this world building that he goes out and does what you were talking about. He encounters people that don't like him. Uh, Creatures that he was never even fathomable to, ideas that he would never conceive before. And then that's how you're kind of brought into, and that's actually genius. Just almost critiquing my own work is that I just drop you in because my whole thing is that I developed my book the same way that you developed yours in the sense that it was like, oh yeah, I'm never gonna write this, and then you just kind of like develop things in your head and kind of add things and just like, oh, this would be cool and that would be cool, and you sit around with your friends and like you drink a little bit. It's like, oh well, yeah, and and you just kind of like build over years and years. So by the time I actually went to go sit down, I had like this whole way bigger like painting laid out, and then the book was just like one little stamp of it. So then how I did it was that I wrote it just like dropping you in, and then like you can just kind of like go about it. I tried not to use like jargon because that was another point that you made a really good point on. That if you just like use too many words that people don't know, then people are gonna be like, all right, what is this? So you kind of just have to describe it and then slowly replace that jargon with a description, and then kind of ease and then kind of like call it back. So
Mhm.
there's a technology I use called a relay, which is basically without getting too much deep into it, it's basically augmented reality in like a higher form, and it's like it's like connected to a physical thing that's implanted behind their ear. So at first, I obviously have to describe what that whole sensation is, but then after a time when I say, oh, I flick behind my ear, whatever, any type of thing like that, that that they're doing something relay related.
You need to massage your audience into trying to understand what the significance of it is.
Exactly. So uh, something that I mentioned before was imagine if you were writing a story about right now to 2020, right now.
Yeah.
If you were writing that story, well, are you really gonna go ahead and write, oh, I picked up my iPhone and then I made a call to whoever, and so a person reading that, 50 years in the future or 50 years prior would not know what you're talking about because they're not in, well, not, I guess not 50 years, probably like 100 years before, 100 years back, wouldn't know what you're talking about because you're describing to a person from your own time frame, basically.
Yeah.
You have to describe how you said, actually, like that. That was actually a good analogy. Massage. You have to massage your audience into it.
Yeah, and sometimes it's could be done in reverse, where you specifically create a mystery around it. Or why is he always flipping in behind his ear? What's the point of that? That could create a mystery of their own, because now you're planting the seeds for potential reveal. We're gonna find something about it. He was a robot this whole time, that kind of stuff.
That is, yeah, that's awesome,
Yeah.
man. So we were talking a little bit about it, like when we were chatting up on Reddit.
Yes,
You're
we
really into,
were.
well, you're really into horror.
I'm not really into, I would say, the only reason I've been recently a lot into horror only because I've been asked to write a horror story, which is why I decided to listen to every horror podcast, watch every horror movie that I can get on, just to get the feel about it. So I have a plan for something for horror related, but it's probably not going to be a book. But it's going to be possibly a short film somewhere on YouTube. Yeah, I try to diverse my writing, trying to hey, somebody wants to make my short film, asking people for that, and I pitched to this group of people, and they're like, hey, we really like, they're more into horror, so which is why I'm like, oh, and now I have to make something horror related. The reason I'm not into super much into horror is because I hate these trappings of, oh, it's a jump scare. Of course it's going to be scary. It's a jump scare by nature. Your body has to jump to the self-defense mode. Of course it's going to be scary. So my favorite horror films are more the ones that get you into your head conceptually and idea wise. Like if you've seen Annihilation or The Thing, it's
Yes.
it's really creepy. Like The Thing is that paranoia that one of us is not to be trusted.
Oh wait, no, I haven't seen Annihilation. I'm thinking about the other one. I think Awakening or something. But it's similar. It's like about like an alien type of thing. I really need to see an Annihilation though. That's been on my list for a
Take your
while.
time. It's also a book as well if you want to read it. I haven't read the book, but the movie was really got into my skin. Um, so that's kind of the horror I like, where it's less about jumpy, scary. It's more about there is something that's gonna make you sit uncomfortable within yourself. At least that's how I felt watching it. The same with The Thing. Like I was paranoid as much as the characters. Like, who is The Thing? Probably not gonna be Ross, the main character, because he's our main guy. But everybody else is like, I don't know. This one could be the. It's that paranoia that I like. That's what makes it. And obviously, top-notch special effects by who did the special effects on that one? I forgot his name, but I know he was an intern originally, but he became like super famous and for his work.
Wow, I didn't know that whole thing. I need to delve more into like the side into like the people that do like the
Like the
more
filmmaking part.
yeah, the actual like because I always delve into like the director, kind of like the more like things that the showy things, you know what I mean? Like the
Yeah, yeah.
actors,
The
the
actors,
directors. Yeah.
interviews. Yeah,
I never like delve into like the people that do the production, which I should, because they're a huge part of everything, you know? They're
yeah.
just they're
Like
important to the artistic process.
if you throw the name Tom Savini, any horror genre lover will tell you he did a makeup effects of zombies for all the George Romero films for the zombies. Not maybe not all, but he definitely was there at the beginning, and he's known to work for was it the Dawn of the Dead? Was it the Dawn of the Dead? The one in the shopping mall? Which one was the shopping mall?
Yep.
That's a Dawn? Yeah, so
Yeah.
Dawn. That was his work. So
They
he
recreated it in Stranger Things season 3.
did he had a cameo there too? Somebody had a cameo, like
They I had seen someone talking about it on Reddit, but I didn't see. I didn't pay that close attention to it. Although I
yeah.
did just recently rewatch that whole
So,
season again.
yeah, Tom Savini is the legend of when it comes to horror makeup, the zombie makeup.
Yeah, well, I've talked about it. My last author, the last author I interviewed on this podcast, actually was Steve R. Gams. He's actually a murder thriller. He does horror. He huge horror fan, and what we were talking about it before.
Hmm.
What I think the concept of horror isn't the jump scare, because the jump scare is obvious, and not only
Yeah,
that, it doesn't translate into like text at all. You know what I mean? Oh, and then the zombie popped out. Okay.
he's behind you.
Ah,
Turn around.
there's not a way to convey that. What real horror is is a concept. It's conceptual, right? The reason Freddy scared me as a kid wasn't because it was like a guy with 4 razor fingers or just that crazy face. It was the fact that he could get you in your dreams. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? That
and
like
he's also super charismatic.
but it was the idea. No, and that charisma really does just rub off on you. But it was the idea that like
If you go to
like
sleep, you're
yeah,
screwed.
yeah, because your dreams are your happy place. Like that's where
Your
you're like
safest
safe.
place.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's where you're safe, right? Like when you're scared of the monsters in your room and you think there's like that coat rack in the corner looks like a huge like giant. Your
Hmm.
safe space is closing your eyes and going to sleep. The
Yeah.
idea that you doing that could lead to the monster you're scared of. That's what horror is. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the horror is always that taking something you're comfortable with as your safe place, just like you said, and putting a horrific element to it. So, for example, just like you said, it's a Freddy Krueger entering your dreams and just playing with you because he can kill you any moment, and he just plays around with you like a cat playing with a mouse, right? And that's why he's such an iconic character. Plus, also Robert England, the actor, such a big charisma. They made him a bit more comedic later on, but that's what makes it kind of to stand out from Jason or the Friday 13 franchise or the Halloween franchise. Is that he's not a big muscular guy. He's got a real personality to him, which is kind of also shooting yourself in the foot when you try to recast the guy because he's such an iconic face and voice to him. Um, yeah, and what else is, for example, the Halloween was about a suburban neighborhood, one of the safest places in America, supposedly. But then they put a monster there, a giant guy who's just killing people. That's also scary. A camp on the lake, one considered to be one of the safest place. Something fell down I guess, in my house.
Yeah. That's what Stephen King is. Well, a king for, right?
Yeah.
Children of the Corn. Hey,
Hey.
Children of the Corn is taking kids, which is like the most, it's a kid, and making them murderers. You have In the Tall Grass, which is taking like something as innocuous as, going into tall grass
Yeah.
and then getting lost forever, right? Like Pet Cemetery,
Yeah.
just the list goes on. That's why he's king. That's the whole reason why he has like the whole genre in the rap is because he gets like the idea that it's 100% conceptual. Jump
Yeah.
scares are good though. I can't lie to you. There's certain times that like a movie will just get you and you're like, motherfucker, I should
Yeah.
have known.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I was saying, that I actually like almost
How about
ironic.
Yeah, yeah,
ironic horror. Like I love, that's why I loved Cabin in the Woods. That has a special place in my heart
it's
because
great.
it's just so ironic, and they almost point out all the intricacies of horror. And I love how they keep on going, like flashing back to like the other countries, and they have like the Japan, and like
That's one of my other favorite things. They're not only paying homage to the American horror films, but also homage to the Japanese horror films. And I was like, oh, obviously, like how did I not think of that? Such an obvious thing to do, but
yeah.
because that's this long to figure it out. My only complaint with that film is that I wish it was a bit more of a surprise because early on you realize like one of the early scenes is that two guys going to this facility and you kind of realize what this is all about. It would have been more fun to re-edit this film to show just like something opening up and the gas pouring out and then asking yourself what was that all about, and then as the characters find out the underground facility, so was the audience realizing, oh shit, this is all a constructed operation, it's all manipulated.
Man, that's
I blew,
awesome.
yeah, I blew your mind. Whoa, dude.
Wow, man, that is crazy. No, I just honestly never thought about it that I cuz man, cuz we have to collaborate on some type of film thing. I've always wanted to, I have a whole bunch of ideas for like different short films
Mhm.
that I wanted to make, and different
It,
wow.
it's it's just like watching the film. I can like to me as an editor and background in film editing, I was like, would I think it would because this twist is coming, it's not interesting. You kind of go by numbers. I have a feeling they might have done test screening, and in a test screening they said, "Oh, it's not obvious enough, or it's too stupid and dumb," and that's why they decided to change it to introduce because it felt like very like even though those are good scenes, like you could have just done the other way where you don't show the facility up until the halfway point, and then you kind of flash back to the beginning of the film where you see all everything, every dumb decision that the characters did is the result of their doing,
Oh yeah, that actually would
of
be cool.
the people in the facility. Yeah, so like once again, in editing, you can play around with the timeline of events, so you could change it to the point where see how audience reacts to that, and if they like it more, if they like it less, did they get it? Like that there's a facility so manipulated, or they're just too dumb to understand, because it happens, and I understand like that's why you need a test audience sometimes. Even test audience could bring something up that you think and the audience should know, but as an edit as the unknown viewer, they're like confused about something and they need more explanation. Like that's why as much as people complain about test audience not being always the smartest, sometimes that will point out something that you need to establish early on. And as as a film guy, I have to you both criticize it but also defend it. It's just a matter of who do you listen to and when.
No, yeah, definitely. How do you feel about the Belko experiment? Have you watched that one?
I have not. I only seen the trailer, and from what I know, it's just people in a cubicle office get stuck in the office, and then they have to kill each other, and don't remember exactly why, but they're basically killing each other. The guy from The Walking Dead is there, the Asian guy. I don't remember his name.
I haven't watched The Walking Dead, but
Oh,
uh
have you read it? Have you read it? Everything we talk
no.
about is based on something, so
Man, I guess that's how everything is, huh?
yeah, it is. Listen,
Uh, and
recognizable franchise. What is it? A book, a film, whatever, adapted.
well, I have to say, The Haunting of Silent Hill is by far, as far as like what we're talking about horror, takes the cake on almost everything that we're talking about. To me, that was just perfectly constructed, start to end. Well, I don't want to drop any spoilers, but like the whole, like who the hanging lady was. I
Hmm.
mean, I think I verbally said like an oh shit, and like it just like it blew my mind. It was such a good thing, and I really did not expect it at all. Although I do feel like I really just let myself immerse in a movie. I feel like there's like certain times that like more obvious things I never pay attention to until the second time. Uh, I don't know if you're like that, because when I first watch a movie, I'm just fully there for the entertainment, and the
I
second time is when I really go in and just like dial.
I rarely watch it the second time, only because I think the first time I watched really carefully to catch every single detail. Sometimes even
Mm,
in the background and try to pay attention. Um, but yeah, rarely do I watch it again. I might see something posted on Reddit saying, "Oh, did you, movie details?" Right? They're like, "Oh,
mm.
did you notice this detail?" And they're like, "Okay, they're mostly references or small things like that, like paying respect or homage to something, but they rarely are story related, or because most of the story related has to be in forefront, because if you miss it and then you watch the movie, you're kind of confused where this came from. So just a matter of like watching it the first time I watch it is just always trying to catch as much as details as I can. And if they're on the on the foreground of your screen, it's hard to miss them, and they're important. Like somebody's hiding a gun under the table, probably the director or the camera will probably point it out so that the audience knows and they're on it. But if the I don't know, somebody's name flashes for like 2 seconds as a reference to some other film, to me it's inconsequential. It's more like a fun paying homage thing, because it's sometimes people don't realize how much stuff you have to put on screen for like one shot. Because like if you're shooting something in a house, you have to decorate that house. You got to put the lamp, you got to put the cardboard, you got to put TV, you got to put what kind of TV it is, how big is this TV, what's playing on TV. You got to do all of that stuff.
Lighting diagram.
Yeah, all of that stuff. And like even sometimes fake brands, you have to create fake brands because you cannot use Coca-Cola. So, and you have no money to pay for Coca-Cola licensing, so you got to put some fake brand name. And your art department has to create a fake brand, but because it's so fun, they decided to scatter this brand all over the movie as as an homage to that. Or they had to rip off somebody. Oh, we cannot use Starbucks, but what if we just changed it enough to make it legally a parody or satire of that? It takes so much effort just to make a goddamn movie.
Yeah.
What was the question again?
God, I can't. It wasn't even a question. It was just like we were talking about filmmaking and stuff. That's actually wow.
Yeah, for a podcast about books, we should talk a lot about movies.
No, no, no. I mean, this is awesome. I definitely have a question to get back on topic about with the book with of Blood and Steel out now. Get it on Amazon, but
Steal it. That's what people do. That I
and make
saw
sure
it.
it's blooded.
I I saw a copy of it, and I had to show. I had to claim at the MCA. Because people are stealing it. It's so
No
easy to
way.
steal.
How?
Yeah. But because you give it for free, right? And once because if you saw it, I guess the way you got it also is for free, right? And then somebody posted on some other shady website that I cannot get control of, because on Amazon it was free until today. Today is the for yesterday, sorry, until yesterday. But because somebody has a free copy, they can post it on like Google Drive or Dropbox or any kind of site that can host any kind of files, and then they can just down on Pirate Bay. It's not hard to do. So just me just trying to Google my own book and just trying to find where is it legal or not
My
for them
God,
to have it.
that is fucking crazy. That has not been talked about once on the podcast so far,
It's
but
reality, man. It's just like, and I get it. Like, I get some stuff for free as well, so it's hard for me to judge it. But when you're independent, you're just selling it for $1. You go like, I have some software, like I have like After Effects software and Premiere, but I use it for work. But I pay my $30 every month for that, only because it's work related, so you can just put it on tax and write it off.
well,
But
at least you're doing that. It's a higher step than most people. Most people don't even have that whole tax write-off thing
yeah,
going
I've
on.
seen so many people when I work like on Premiere and like even my work, and they're like, "Hey, we have a Premiere. You can work on our software." And I'm like, "Oh, that's great." And then I open it up and I say, "This is the old version. Is that a hack version? Are you hacking it?"
Without a doubt.
And yeah, and people are trying to save, even $30, yet alone a single dollar. So
Dude, it's crazy. You see it in the corporate all the time. Like you go to work with like a company, unless it's a huge company that has like
yeah,
crazy contracts, they're getting whatever. And their whole thing is that you're just not gonna talk. That's all your whole thing. It's
yeah,
like,
you're
oh
just
yeah, wait,
contractor.
is this sold? Is this stolen? It's like, yeah. You just
Yeah,
look at you and you're like, oh, all right,
okay, that's enough.
get back to work.
As long as I'm getting paid, I don't care.
Well, getting back on track with Of Blood and Steel.
Yeah.
H-
What was
The
that? What is
Hollows.
it? What is it?
The Hollows. How did you get into that whole concept? And also, since we're kind of delving into the horror, did you because I didn't get too deep into the book, did you get to delve into the whole horror writing aspect of it into any element of the book? Because that's actually something that I got mad at myself because, like, as we were talking about, recently got into horror,
Mhm.
and I wrote my book previous to that. So when I finished writing it and I'm in the marketing stage of it, now I'm almost mad that I didn't incorporate that horror element because I'm such a fan of it now.
Yeah. Well, I guess there's two questions. How did you get the hollow? And is there any horror element in the book that I incorporated?
Mm.
But I answer the first question. The hollow is a giant hole in the ground, but very deep, so deep that you cannot see the natural sunlight coming in. So everything is lit with candles and torches and stuff like that. So that is both a metaphorical and physical hole. It's a physical in the sense that there's a giant hole in the ground. There's just that. But it's also second metaphorical because when we it will involve spoilers. So I'm not sure if you said you didn't finish it, how much is going to affect your reading. But it serves a metaphorical hole for the character of Balak. And to say more would be to spoil it. So I'm not sure if you want me to just keep going.
Well, no, because what I was more thinking about was the how did you come to the creation, like the writing aspect of it. How did you come to creating it? Like for example, the
Yeah.
thing that really like struck to me was like being like, oh wow, that's a crazy concept. Was the whole idea that fuel and light is a major commodity there because
Yes.
when in areas that it gets too cold and dark, a fungus will develop that is that will kill you basically. So keeping light in your area is not just a thing for visibility and for ease of life, is for life in general.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's an awesome concept. How did you come up with that? How did that happen?
Well, just like I said, it because first it served a metaphorical purpose, and then from there I was like, okay, what if I just take this metaphorical hole and make it a physical one? And then from that, I start to realize, okay, why would somebody build a giant hole in the goddamn ground? Well, most of the time it's resources. Okay, what kind of resource would a person in this time period would want to go there? And because it's fantasy, I allowed myself to exaggerate things. So I googled the most the biggest hole in on Earth, and I said, okay, can I multiply that by 10 or like 2, and just pretend as if that's created by humans? And from there, it became a question. Okay, if people live on the very bottom, why would they be there? And the answer would be okay. The answer would be because maybe they're working there. Okay, the working class. Okay, but then they're gonna go up. But what if they're so deep? It's just much easier just to be on the bottom floor and just live there. Shitty conditions, but if you need your, I've seen so many so many people going to other countries that are to work and then send them money to their home country. So to think that somebody would work there just so they can save enough money and send it back to the surface is not too much of a giant leap, considering how much other shitty jobs exist in this world. So that kind of makes sense. But I took it the next step. Okay, the next step would be, because it's always dark, and if somebody lives there for a long period of time, what it would do to you, A, psychologically, and B, physically. So physically, your skin would probably be more pale because it doesn't get enough vitamin D from the sun. Um, it'd also be probably what kind of air condition would there be, how much, economically, how much emphasis would be on the light and food if you have to transfer it all the way down. So once again, writing these questions down and just saying, okay, well, I need to answer all these questions in this chapter so people get a better feeling. It's both the world building stuff, because now you're literally world building this giant hole of a city for the viewer or the reader. And it's also just fun exercise to kind of cover all your bases, so people wouldn't be like asking questions, well, why is there a hole in the ground? If it's just a hole in the ground, it's not as interesting as a city on the ground, so deep that there's no light. What's the economy here? Who is in charge? How it was built? What's the purpose of it? And then the final question is, would it have people that are not workers? And the answer is yes, people who are trying to hide from something, trying to escape from something, and that sometimes could be debt collectors. It could be maybe they have a contract to get assassinated, so they're hiding in that place. So all these, and sometimes because it's cheap, because it's easier to live there, because it's, maybe it's so cheap that nobody wants to be there, so you're gonna go there by default. Like, I don't want, everything else is too damn expensive. Once again, not too much of jumping the leap in reality. People do sometimes travel to places that are not really good conditions, but they're cheap, and you move this into this part of town that's not really safe, but it's cheaper, and I cannot pay my rent. Fucking in Toronto, where I'm from, Toronto downtown is like almost your entire salary. So like, is it worth to be living paycheck to paycheck in downtown, in more fancier than downtown Toronto? Sometimes not. You gotta go somewhere else. You gotta find new places so you can start saving money for God knows what, for maybe a car, or maybe for a rainy day, because you never know what's that gonna come. Which, thank God, we still have a affordable healthcare, and our government is doing a pretty good job at keeping it that way.
Lucky bastard.
I know. Nah, 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 nah. Son of a bitch.
Uh, you and your unalienable human rights. But
Listen, I apologize. I'm a true Canadian. I'm gonna say sorry at the end. Is it polite to say sorry?
Well, oh man, so you're a South Park fan, huge fan.
Yeah.
Yeah, huge fan. But so that kind of answered the question. So Toronto, but what inspired you to write about the caucus and like the whole region? How did that come up be?
Well, because I'm from there. I was born in Baku, Azerbaijan in 1982, and ever since I was raised there up until my 15th birthday. And then a couple months before my 16th birthday, we just moved here at I think in August of 2008. Yeah, August 2008. Passed my ESL, which is, for those who don't know, English as second language.
Oh yeah, I was in that too.
You were there too? No way.
Yeah.
What's your first language?
Spanish. I'm Dominican. I come
Spanish.
from DR.
Oh, Dominican. That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah. I'm really light skinned right now because I live in the north now. But
I see.
I take up sun like a motherfucker.
Is Spanish, you say Dominican, right? Is Spanish Dominican different from Spanish Mexican, or
they're all different? Yeah.
they're all different?
Yeah. Well, we could all talk with one another, but they're all different dialect. I mean,
slang actually, probably, or like
oh yeah, not just slang, but like complete different words. Like I remember when I took Spanish here, like I took Spanish classes because I didn't take French because I was too lazy. I just wanted an easy grade. We got taught Spanish, and well, Spain Spanish, and like their words, like they didn't have a word for banana. Like their word for banana was plátano. And like there's the green plátano, which is like the one that you cook with, and like the yellow banana that you eat. But the Spanish, they just have one word, plátano, and they'll either say green or yellow plátano. But to me, Dominicans, we do have a word for that. There's plátano, which is the eat one, and then guineo. Guineo is what we call banana, the yellow one that you eat.
So based on, yeah, because there are some green ones which is less ripe, and then there's a yellow ones, and there's more browner ones.
Yeah.
And I guess because it's gonna sound like I'm a freaking idiot. I guess because you have a big exporter of bananas.
You're 100% right.
Okay, perfect. I'm not that. Well, that was my logistical kind of reasoning, because maybe Spain don't have as much bananas, so you kind of use one word to describe all of them. But in a culture where bananas play a bigger role and bigger part and much more diverse, they'll probably have a different word for each type. Not even type, but like ripe.
No, you're 100% right, because it brings together what you were talking about before with the food, because Spain came and conquered the land, like yes. Land America, Hispaniola, and that's what became like their offset. Spain doesn't have plátano, and well, I'm pretty sure they didn't have plátano and bananas naturally. So to them, there was like an export. They were like, oh yeah, plátano, the yellow, the green ones. Who gives a fuck?
Yeah,
us, we were the ones sending it out. So it's like, oh yeah, that you don't want to eat, you don't want to eat a plátano, and you don't want to cook a guineo. So like we have different words for them. Whereas to them, they're like, yeah, who gives a fuck? Go to the store. Who gives a fuck? We're just getting it for them.
Yeah, I've noticed also that in some cultures, even like it's a single word, like for example, the word horse. In other cultures where the horse plays a much bigger part, they could have like 20 or 30 different words just describing a horse. It's all a horse, like it's the same meaning in a broader sense, but for them, there's some small differences that an English speaker perhaps would not know.
Yeah, and you know what? Going off a little bit more on that on a weirder tangent. I love that on a broader scale of how that's how perception is. Like I love there was an analogy like a long time ago that made me go crazy. Well, not an analogy, but I guess like a fact.
Yeah.
It was talking about that humans, like the way that we're operated is that we can notice slight variations between like another person's face, like like nothing. If we're looking at a person and their eye their eye twitches a little bit higher, like, oh, what is that motherfucker thinking about over there? And we can immediately start like we can immediately start doing all this like mental math. But to a bee is we're just a blob to a bee. Like we're just like a thing. We're like the adults in the Charlie and in the Peanut Fat. We're just like we're just in the air. We're not even there. We're just like a thing. But then flowers to them are defined to a way that we can even perceive. Like they can see pollen. They can see like different like things and chemicals and like different pheromones and shit. So every time that I like think about like a world or like an alien, I always think about that thing about how we literally live in the exact same space as a bee. I can walk outside right now. Well, not it's nighttime, but I can
And
walk
it's
outside.
pandemic.
Yeah, yeah. But like I can normally under normal circumstances and during like I can walk out and bump into a bee and we're both live in the same space, but we perceive two completely different realities.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
And
that's
it's even like the same with like a language, like trying to explain something in a different language to person who's never been encountered in there is there could be a word in German that English speak like there's no translation in English. So somebody who like me who speaks different languages, I can contest to that because there's words in Russian that there's no possible translation in English, and the same goes for the other way around. There's like specific words like um not even the words, but like the and a, like
mm,
you say the moon or like a car, but in Russian there's no, so you don't put the or a in front of anything. If there's a car, you just say car. You don't say a car, you just say car.
hmm.
And the other thing with Russian is that you can change um, the structure of the sentence. Like let's say, for example, the simplest one, I love you. In English, there's only one way to say that, I love you. There's specific order and structure to it. You cannot say love you I, right? That'll make you sound like a crazy person. But in
Yeah.
Russian, you can totally do that. You can say я тебя люблю тебя я, тебя люблю я. All three different one, all make sense, all the same meaning.
What?
Yeah. We probably might put like a comma somewhere there, but
That's
the,
cool.
the point is the same.
No, Spanish is the same way. So one thing that I really like about Spanish is that you can just put things together. So, for example, in Spanish, let's say that I ask you, hey, can you go get me that? Right? There's
Mhm.
no way that I can separate the subject from the noun. It has to
Yes.
be that's how like the language is constructed. That's how a proper sentence is formed in
That's how
English.
English works.
Yeah, right. Whereas in Spanish, I can merge it. So let's say that we have a verb which is traime, which is like bring me or like give me, and
Mhm.
then the action of like that thing. Instead of saying I can say tráemelo, which is bring me that, instead of just saying just tráeme, which is just
Mhm.
bring me. I can say
Yeah.
bring me that, or and I can like you can even like add it to another like prime tráeme ellos, which is means like bring me that you, like you bring me those. Like you can just keep on stacking it. That's like, and
Interesting.
yeah, and it's almost like weird when you like explain it to a person because you just there's no such thing as that in actually you can English because they have the cannot, but we have that basically with like larger concepts basically because you can just keep on just like merging things together. It's like, yep, that works.
Yeah. I guess it makes it things are more complicated or easier sometimes. It's like we can just merge them.
Well, that's what it's kind of cool. Do you ever? Because now we're getting into it. Because you said that they're gonna get into the Iron Gates, which makes you assume that there's gonna be a book two, or at least some type of continuation of the story for the different characters' point of view.
Not really. It's a one and done story. They get there or don't. I don't know. You gotta read it to find out.
Ah, okay,
I'll give
okay.
it. There's
Uh,
at least three big twists.
man, that's good. I don't even. I think I have like one big two. Yeah.
What
No,
was the
no.
big one that you found out?
Oh no, no, no! Like I'm thinking like in comparison of my book, like three big twists.
Oh, okay,
That's
okay, my
pretty
bad, my
good.
bad, my
Yeah,
bad.
no, no, no. Like three twist, like that's pretty good. Three big
Well,
twists.
the
Damn.
twists are there to bring a wrench into people's plans or to change the dynamic because there's only two characters and you always have to change the dynamic.
Mm.
I've been listening to the one of the creators of Rugrats, Paul Germain, and on his interview with Nickelodeon, he said that a good character dynamic is the one that's called push and pull, where you have two characters, one wants to do something, and the other says, "No, I don't want to do it." The easiest example is Fork in the Road. One leads is the short one, but it's very dangerous, and the other is long one, but it's very safe. And the more heroic character, like Tommy from Tommy Pickles from the Rugrats, would probably say, "Let's go the short way." And then Chucky would probably say, "No, I don't want to go. This is too scary. It's too dangerous." So you constantly have to push and pull that in that direction. And the same with the in my characters in my book. They always sometimes they trust each other and they're willing to do something together, and sometimes they're kind of forced to pick the road that the other character is not happy with, and then it switches. So that's a good kind of dynamic. And because of their relationship, because they trust more each other, they're more willing to take that road that they otherwise might not have done it in the past. So that's kind of the reason I have those twists, is because it changes the relationship that they have.
Okay. And that kind of brings back to the question I was asking before with the horror elements in the book.
Yes. But I ask for right now. Sorry.
Oh no,
uh,
no, don't because I asked two questions like a dumbass. Uh,
nah,
well,
dude, don't go yourself, Dad.
people always say that, but like I'm from well, I can't say I'm from Boston. I went to school in Boston, and that's like the type of thing. It's like that is you say that over nothing. You call your car, five shades of motherfucker just when it turns on correctly in the morning.
Oh, well,
God,
that's
God yeah,
that's
yeah,
a good day.
God forbid the battery went out.
Oh, I see. I think
uh,
Boston. How's the weather in Boston? I assume it's very close to Toronto. People always assume like if you're in Canada, it's always snowing. No, it's not. We had like a literally couple days, the warmest day in the entire, for the past 50 years.
believe it or not, no, I actually, well, not believe it or not, you're 100% correct. I had a friend that, well, like basically who basically lived with me throughout all of Boston. She went up to Boston, I mean to Toronto, and said it was basically the exact same.
It's like New York from what I
Yeah.
hear. Never been to New York, but like it gets the snow in the winter, but in the summer it's warm. It's pretty. You can go in the park, chill.
Oh, dude, summers and spring in Boston are my favorite thing in all of life, especially when you're actually there for the full year and you see everything like die and the snow come in and then
Yeah,
everything
yeah.
slowly broom because like Boston is especially during spring looks overgrown if anything. It'll come up and it'll look like okay, yeah, the grass is back, but then it'll get like crazy. It's like, damn, somebody should trim that. Like it'll start getting crazy.
We
And
gotta
that's
stop
my
this before it becomes a problem.
yeah, like it started getting like really green and like really beautiful and everything's like really like vibrant. You're like, yo, motherfucker, and that's
Yeah,
the best.
take a snap a picture or
Oh yeah, there's a street called Marlboro which you can't get a studio for less than 3,000 a month, but the trees are literally lined
Damn,
with like trimmed Japanese blossoms, lined. And
that's
if you
beautiful.
yeah, and if you walk all the way down it, it goes into the park, which is the Commons. Like that's like the big it's like the big like Boston attraction, like all the movies. Every time they
It's
have
a place you gotta go when you visit Boston, basically.
yeah, it's like Central Park in New York.
I
It's the
see.
Commons. Like that's where all the festivals are. The big 420 thing that they have there, the Freedom Rally, all the things that they have
Mhm.
are all in Boston. Anytime they have like any type of riot, I'm sure all with all the shit going on right now, that place is littered. Uh, but
Yeah.
I graduated from school like a while ago. I still go visit. It's just one of my favorite places ever. Boston is fucking amazing.
Mhm.
Uh, Especially when the snow is my favorite. I love snowy cities because like the city just shuts down and then like
Yeah.
places that are like crazy empty. I mean crazy like popping on a Friday that next Friday will be like ghost towns at like 1 a.m. and you're just
Mhm.
like running around, like just like doing stupid snow shit with your friends. I mean, then again, that was I think I'm reminiscing. I was 5 years ago now, but fun.
Yeah, it's a good to reminisce sometimes, you know. As long as it seems like you like the city a lot of Boston.
Oh no, I've always lived in cities. I like the whole
Even in
idea of
Dominican,
yeah,
was it the capital or
Santo Domingo. I lived in the capital.
you live in the capital? Oh,
Yeah,
interesting.
like I went to go visit Nisao, which is more of the El Campo, the country.
Hmm.
But it was visitation.
What did you came to US or move to US?
What year? I came here at 6, and then the last time that I went was like 7 because I came here at 6, and
Hmm.
then I'm sure it was nothing of my doing, because when you're a kid and you move around a lot, you never have a damn say. Like I
No.
always have like I always have flashbacks and stuff like, oh no, maybe I affected the decision. Then I didn't. I never did. But I remember that first year I was hella homesick, and we did end up going back for like a while. I would say like a month or so. But then we came back, and then I haven't gone back since then.
Since you were 7 years old.
Yeah.
Do you have any passion to go back?
I'll tell you what. I am hella prideful of my heritage and like being Dominican,
Yeah.
but just like you hear the horror stories of how DR is now, because like it was shit when I was there, and
Hmm.
it hasn't gotten any better. Any
Oh,
better.
that's sorry.
Well,
That's,
around the block where I'm at anyway. Supposedly the government has only gotten more corrupt and fucking all this just shit that you it was kind of unfortunate.
oh, I
But
get it. A lot of people move because they want a better life. My parents moved to Canada because they want a better life for me, better education, better healthcare. Um, I guess less corrupt government would be nice too.
yeah, but you got to think that all these things, I mean like I mean I hate to sound like one of those like flat like vapid people on like IG or Twitter, but like you almost got to appreciate those type of things, especially now that we're like writing, cuz like those are the things that I love getting into conspiracies and like into like corrupt governments. I mean, that's like the basis of most of my like writing.
Free
It's like
time.
I
Oh, okay.
yeah, well like that too. You know what I mean? Just like like thinking like, man, those motherfuckers, they got me somewhere. They got me. These cameras, these microphones, they're doing something. But
I'm recording myself right now.
right, I'm making their job easier. But
Yeah, yeah. For your agent, it's like, well, this is interesting.
exactly. Like they were recording me before, and they were like, "Damn, how can we get this dude's sound quality and video
Any
quality higher?
better?
Yeah, how can we get it better? You know?
And an attitude is
Yeah, it's muffled in his phone all the time. How can we get a better, podcasting? Let's get him into it.
show him a discount on Amazon for a good mic. He will buy it.
Oh, dude. Oh my God, you just gave me another idea. Like,
That's how
can you
they get
imagine
you.
it's at that level? Fuck, I'm telling you.
Listen,
This,
I've been
this is
like
my inspiration. I'm trying to tell you. This is how I write. I sit around and I like just go like, oh man, they're doing this, and then I make that.
well, not only that, like it's like I recently had a discussion with my friend about like I'm sure exact some kind of object you can buy, but it was too expensive. And the next day, every single ad on YouTube and whatever free website I went to, ads for that exact same thing. I'm like, motherfucker.
That happens. I mean, like it's a cliche
It's
now.
convenient sometimes because you want to get it because it's cheap, but at the same time, I'm like, but are you listening to me when I don't need that? Like, what if you were listening to me when I'm not giving you my consent?
You know what kills me? When you're using like a computer at work, and then like somebody calls you on your phone, and then you're just verbally talking about some shit. It's like, oh yeah, no, I don't need a new vacuum from Dyson. And then
Yes.
2 days later
Vacuum from Dyson. Is that what you
yeah,
want?
and it's everywhere. And you're like, yeah, what the fuck? You didn't
Yeah.
even there's not even a microphone connected
It
to
could
the
be
computer.
somebody else just like passing by saying something, and you're like, dude, you just ruined. Why do I need this?
Yeah.
It's like the most harmless level, it's just annoying. But on the most extreme level, what else they know about me, right?
I had a friend that I wanted to show him a song on YouTube or a video on YouTube, and he made me sign off of his YouTube because he didn't want me to
To
put like a
change his,
video,
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
then like the suggestions we're gonna do. And like at first I was like, bro, that is the most
It happens
like
all the
what
time.
are
Like
we
so,
talking about here? But
yeah,
then I
some
realized it and I was like, dude, you're right. If when I click on a video that I'm dumb, I'm like, dude, why did I do that? Now I'm gonna have, pimple popping That's gonna be my front page now for 3 days.
Yeah, it's like this fucked up shit I'm gonna watch for the next 2 weeks until the algorithm decides to give me something else.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I get you. It happens all the time. Like, especially people who are like even in the news have to try to look up something fucked up, and then it's all over their page. That's all they see, something fucked up happening. Like, oh, dude, it's gonna psychologically it's just gonna drain you. But like for like a regular person, it's just gonna annoy you. The fuck, you know?
Man, yeah, that was awesome. Do you ever have man, could just kind of like going into a little bit. Well, I guess Game of Thrones
Oh boy.
did delve in a little bit into it, but now that we're talking about conspiracies and you seem like you're kind of into it, do you have ever like an idea of like merging the idea of kind of like a heavy conspiracy base with a fantasy? Because
Uh,
I don't think I've ever seen that. That'd be really cool if you delved into that.
Not really. To answer your question, conspiracy wise, I'm not big. I'm just trying to like. There's obviously something that makes sense. Like, okay, government is listening, to you. They are recording. That's kind of like to me, it's less of a conspiracy, but more of a fact at this point. I mean, they are most of the time there are marketing companies that are trying to shove a product in front of your eyes, so that's going to make sense. Whether the government puts a microchips in your body, they don't need to do that. They already know everything about you.
Yeah,
It's like, why even waste more time to do that? It's like, oh, wait, you want to find out more about these guys? Yeah, sure. Show me their search history and their passwords and websites and what their interaction, their kind of friends are, what they're following. Reddit alone is just like a free giveaway. Stuff you like, upvote and downvote, kind of give a clear indication of kind of person you are.
yep.
If you leave a comment, that's even more information for them. Thanks a lot. Um, so you don't really like in terms of conspiracies. Like, I don't believe in QAnon. That's stupid shit to me. That's just like
What's that?
ridiculous. Don't even ask me because that's stupid. One of my friends, he's a reporter, so he always talks about how stupid this thing is and how it's dangerous and crazy. It's a rabbit hole.
No, yeah, as you can tell, I'm not even like when I mean conspiracy, I think that has like such a negative term because like people immediately like trail it to like Alex Jones and
Yeah, yeah.
you believe in reptiles, but like
The frogs are turning people gay.
yeah, I don't think anything like that, but it's just like it's like the government that we have and the governments at whole have been proven throughout history to lie and do things to manipulate like things, and that's dead given
Yeah,
facts.
that's just a fact. That's just a
Yeah.
fact.
So
Government is always
like
trying to take advantage of you.
yeah, that's without a doubt fact. So I think it's like fun to like sit around and think about like how they do that. I don't think I'm like really
It's
thinking that
fun,
like
but like sometimes it
fire's gonna
gets
go.
sometimes it goes into the ridiculous extent where you go like, this is just not even worth entertaining. But the problem is that some people take it seriously and they like really believe this, and they just like there's people still think that pyramids were built by aliens, and I'm sorry to break it for you, I don't think so. We have technology. Like, here's the problem sometimes with is that um for example, Egyptian pyramids. How did people build this? It's so heavy, and they didn't have a tool. Well, because you're thinking from a 21st century point of view. You're thinking that these people just had their own force to lift it, which they didn't. Clearly, there was lots of other people trying to do. Like, there was like an army of people, free labor workers, slaves, goddamn it, that had to do this job for them. But there was also tools to do this, and you don't have to use lasers for that. Only because you think it that way doesn't, like, a real educated historian would tell you what kind of tools these people had and if it was achievable, because we have smaller pyramids. So that's already a clear giveaway that they're trying to build something like that on a smaller scale. They just put it 10 times bigger, and with the enough time and enough workforce, a lot of things can be accomplished. you know so like it's not a big jump to conclusions as humans did build it, because if aliens did it, why they built this out of all the things? Why is this? Like, there's no answer for that. But for the humans, we have the answer to build to bury the pharaohs, which they worshipped as much as gods.
But there's no pharaohs buried there.
There are, though. They took their mummies there.
In the Pyramid of Giza, most of them are found in the tomb of the no, what's it called? The tomb of the pharaohs. Yeah, it's like a
like
separate
to think.
location, and then Tut was found in the remnants of the thing, but he was like a special case, and then Ramses was like moved. They supposedly he wasn't there, but he was moved. But aside from any of that, I mostly agree with you. Like
Yeah.
that's the thing.
Wait a second. Here's
Yeah,
some logic holes.
yeah. That was just the one thing. But for the
Yeah,
most
yeah.
part, I really do like 100% agree with you. But the thing that I love, like the reason I love like sitting around like theorizing about it, is that you just kind of like explained it. It's like imagine you were able to write the same thing in your book, and then you were able, from an audience point of view, you were able to really sit back and like be like, oh no, yeah, you can have like one part of your audience be like, oh no, yeah, definitely humans made that. Obviously, what are you
Yeah,
stupid?
yeah.
And then the other side be like, oh no, it was like look at the evidence.
Well, the way I
And to
have
me,
my
to me, that's those are the type of things that you have to study and like learn how to like put. Well, depending on how you want to write your, depending on how you
yeah,
want to
yeah,
write your book, you know what I mean? Because
yeah.
how you said your structure was genius, like the how you deconstructed it, just
Just
like
copy and paste it. Genius. Copy paste.
that goes there.
Command C, command V. There you
No,
go.
no, but like the symbol deconstruction, because it was on the point. It was 100% on the money. It was that you have two characters, like the whole push and pull thing that you were just talking about with the Rugrats creator, but the thing that you were talking about at the beginning of the podcast, that you have it's
It kind
this
of characters in
journey, yeah,
unfamiliar
yeah,
setting going to
yeah,
somewhere we
from
don't know.
yeah, unfamiliar into the unknown, and just that deconstruction of it was 100% on the money. So how do you go from that? Like, how did that whole story come to be? How did you go into creating this story?
Um,
What
gonna
was
answer
the
the other two questions, the horror and the conspiracies. I feel like the people like, I guess
oh
not gonna answer this ever
sorry.
again. I'm gonna be
Oh,
short
my
and
bad.
sweet. The horror ones is present in chapter. I don't remember the number of the chapter, but I do remember the name of it, the Mystic Forest.
Yep.
That's where most of the horror stuff. That's where and the influence from Annihilation, the movie, came most to be, because that's where you encounter the fantasy creatures that are just not seen in any other fantasy, and more like imagination of my own, and just mix matching elements of I guess fantasy and horror, because there's some creatures that are more horrific and there's some creatures that are more beautiful.
Hmm.
um, and so that's, I guess that's the biggest, any kind of horror related stuff is in that chapter. But outside of that, the outside of that, there's actually one more. So early on you see a girl, they're mage breakers, the people who hunt mages, right? And you see a
Yep.
girl passing by, and her face is locked in this contraptment that can break her jaw. That's mostly based on the jaw series. Because I was thinking, what if you have mages? Mages are pretty powerful, and in my world, mages are like, like in if you have a mage in medieval times, you are super powerful. So there'll be a lot of people who are like, we don't want that. That's too scary. So we need to find a way to find these people and to just, at the best, you know, put them down and just put them in prison. But worse, possibly execute them so they don't cause any more damage. So I decided to create these types of people, or like individuals, the hunters that hunt mages, and when they capture you, because most of the magic is done by speaking the words, is so the best way is just to put somebody's head into this contraption, where if they try to break through it, it's going to basically separate your jaw from your head in a very gruesome way. Um, so that's kind of inspiration came from. So Annihilation for the Mystic Forest, and the Saw series for the part where you see the contraptment for the mage.
Wow, that is awesome.
That's gruesome. I was like, how can I make it more disgusting?
Yeah,
And
that's
that's
awesome.
so that kind of makes sense to me. And then the other question you asked was
Conspiracy.
conspiracies. Mostly that's related to religion. So in my world, there's a religion where I was thinking about this because sometimes, sometimes you look at the mountain and you go like, oh, this look, and not Mount Rushmore, some different mountain, not like legitimate what they build the faces on it, but like let's say you look at the random one in like in the middle of the nowhere, and then go, oh, this looks kind of like a face, or like a body, or like somebody's laying down, or like a dog, right? You ever seen those kind of mountains?
Yeah. there's one in Maine called like the Granite Man or something like that. That
So
people
in
like say it looks like a granite, like a man.
so I imagine, what if somebody thought, like like some medieval society looked at it and said, hey, what if there was giants and they died and their bodies became the mountains and the landscape of this world,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it was all flat, like as flat as if like plain, like there's no highlands or high grounds or low grounds. And when the giants came to existence, they roamed the world, but over the time they passed and they died, and their skeletons deformed the formation of current mountains, which is why some of them look like humans or look like faces.
And,
And that became the kind of the concept for religion, that this world is there's a god that decided to cut pieces of himself, and from these pieces came the giants, and these giants, when they died, from the foundation of the mountains, and once they died off, from the small pieces of what's left of the blood of the dead god, became first humans. So there's kind of
that
like a hierarchy of the main god, the giants, and then the giants died, and then the humans came to existence.
man, that is that's another really fucking cool one. Wow,
And just
the
it's
body of
simple,
giants.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's just simple observations. Like, what if, you never know.
yeah, that's awesome. And then what, like forges and creeks and things like that are like what, like the giants
It's like yeah,
falling
it's
or
like a
like
footsteps.
steps.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah, yeah.
footsteps. They're doing something. They perhaps have the war against themselves, and then they died off. And then from that, the kind of creation, because the god created the giant Earth, but it was not populated. There was nothing interesting. He cut a piece of like sacrificial, cutting myself to create life. There's some kind of themes of that, because a lot of religion has that, where the god makes a great sacrifice. I mean, look at Jesus Christ.
Yeah,
Made the
yeah.
sacrifice. The original sin with the Adam and Eve. That kind of stuff.
Yeah, no, that is actually 100% in my book too. Because you have, I mean, it's a sci-fi. It's like a lot of things, but the main
But a
character
lot of sci-fi do borrows from a lot of
from religion, yeah.
from religion. Yes.
Well, because the main character, he basically makes himself. I was actually going back and forth of calling him the Pope, but I went against it. Just called him just whatever, Commander Zako. But I was considering calling him the Pope because what he was supposed to bring was that he was uh his whole thing is obsession of the truth, was that the government before, the government when he was younger, was like doing all this like shady shit, which in reality made the society basically a utopia. Like
Hmm.
the world planet was a utopia when he was younger, but there was just a lot about it that he didn't know.
Yes.
Then when he is puts himself in the position that he's able to change that, he considers that move the illumination. So he considers that like a favor he did to the world, basically. Like, I illuminated you. We
Yeah.
you know now that the fucking there's no more
Like
bullshit.
his function and purpose is an allegory to what I guess the Pope's position should be or would be.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
like
And
it's like I illuminated you now. Now you like know the thing. But the whole thing is that he kind of fucked up because immediate that utopia goes down immediate in their like in their
yeah,
power.
it's the fall from grace. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's the
Which is
immediate.
also another biblical element, right?
Oh, dude, that I mean, this thing is riddled to the point I don't even want to go like too much into it. I kind of just want the people like to thing. But
Yeah.
with the
And
conspiracy.
yeah, you're not alone
No, go
in
ahead.
taking that. For example, Halo series, the video game Halo, also has a very religious meaning. The number that Commander Master Chief has, 114 John, some kind of it's a reference to some kind of passage in the Bible. Mass Effect, one of my favorite franchises, the main character is called Commander Shepard. Shepard is also has a religious
Yeah.
connection as well. So there's a lot of high, super futuristic science fiction borrows a lot of um, from the Bible and history. It's one of the easiest, or I guess most fastest way to get inspired from is just the Bible, because a lot of people are familiar with it without even reading too much, right? I've never read the
Yeah.
Bible, but I am aware of Adam and Eve. I'm aware of the original sin, of the lost paradise, Dante's Inferno, which is not religious, but like has 7 layers of hell.
Yeah, Frankenstein, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein.
Yes.
And that actually is
the
reference.
granddaddy of all the science fiction, right?
Yeah. Not only is the granddaddy, but it references what you just mentioned, Paradise Lost.
Hmm.
The whole like when the monster's realizing and he's kind of questioning, and he's talking to the thing. It's like why, like basically why did you make me? It's the same conversation that the angels talk to ask God. Like
Speaking to your creator, right?
yeah, it's like talking to your creator and almost having like almost having resentment. Like what was the point? If you
Yeah.
know if
And the
this is
answer is because we could.
yeah, it's like well shit. And yeah, I mean like that. I think that's the reason that most sci-fi is like that. Like one aspect, one of the conspiracies, one aspect that I put in the book, which is a major conspiracy now, is kind of a flat Earth thing. I remember when I was writing the book, I met some people that were into it, and I was just like, I remember I just had to study them because it was just like how, like how could you get to that like level of like thinking
Yeah. How
and
can you
like
justify in your
yeah,
head?
and how it developed into it was that it wasn't a belief that the world was flat. It was a disbelief in NASA. It was a disbelief in like the governmental agencies that were representing space, and like that kind of gave me an idea of like, all right, well, because the whole thing that the reason like I just thought it was insane was that like their reason for like why they would lie didn't make any sense. It was like, oh well, they're doing it to control us. Like, wait a minute, but if the Earth was like the Earth is easier to get away from if it was flat. Like it's harder in a globe. Like you know what I mean? Like it's easier to control in a globe. The whole idea of like keeping it flat like
But you also
makes the
forget all the
concept harder.
billions of dollars they're making from selling these globes.
Yeah, well, I guess right, all that money.
It's
But it's just,
billions of dollars. You don't know what you're talking about. God damn it.
but it's just that the whole thing it doesn't make sense. So I flipped it, and I thought, all right, well, instead, why don't like why doesn't the government lie to the people and say that the world is flat? Instead of it being instead of the vice versa, because that way if the earth is flat then you can just segregate like, oh yeah, this is all there is, keep your ass here, work here, and then
Mhm.
don't even worry about anything to the side, and then that is better. Like that's kind of like a better conclusion in this reality, like, where you have the flip side. It's like dumb because then if people were really that curious, we can just confirm that we could just fly to that distance and be like, oh no, yeah, there's not an edge, what are we talking about here?
Mhm.
Whereas like you know like that whole thing is what kind of derive like the whole religious aspect of what you're talking about, because you have the people that like kind of logically look at it, because I'm sure in your world there are people that look at the mountains and go and really believe in that whole idea of like, oh no, that is the body
Well,
of
also knows in
giants.
medieval times, right? Medieval times, I was thinking like people are not as sophisticated in terms of they're like sometimes we take credit from them, sometimes we give too much credit to people of medieval society. They had function. They had like they knew the Earth was not flat, and if somebody said they have flat flood, they're probably because they're making fun of them. Because even
Exactly.
back in the medieval times, there were globes. They were not accurate in terms of like their continents, locations, because it was really hard to map. Even like I read the story where a king was ordered to map the territory of France, and it took 3 generations, and even the final map was not looking very accurate.
Wow, I didn't know that.
But
That's awesome.
because France is huge, imagine like trying to map this whole goddamn country like that. It's gonna take you a long time, 3 generations, and even that's kind of it was a failure.
Yeah, especially France at the height that whoever whatever this king was,
At the height of their, the,
yeah.
the vastness of their empire, yes. So people like medieval times, they knew the Earth was not flat. They knew it was because we had globes from like, I believe, 16th or 14th century. Um,
Pythagoras calculated the curvature of the earth back
Even
back then.
before that, yeah, even before the medieval times. So they kind of knew. So I was like, okay, you're sophisticated enough to believe that, but are you sophisticated enough to believe that these mountains could be, you know, because if you look at them, for you, the evidence is right there. Well, it looks like a face. That
Yep.
looks like a face. Must
Yep.
be real, right? It's more kind of, I could see somebody making connection with that because even historically, people could, they saw angels or they saw the devils. Where in reality, it could be just, a trick of an eye.
Yep.
The most famous example is the face on Mars. Have you seen that one?
Yeah. That's I can't remember what the it's like a psychological term that humans just have like a
Human
thing.
naturally want to try to see the face, so it kind
Yeah.
of made sense to me. It's like, okay, so but because of the light, like if you change the lighting, all of a sudden there is no face on that
Yeah,
Mars.
exactly.
It's just that one specific angle from that specific shadows. It looks like a face, sure. In any other, angle doesn't look like anything like a face.
Oh, that's interesting. So you can make it that like one village would be more pious than another because maybe they'll have like a better angle and like they're looking at like a direct face every day. They're like, oh no, that's
Yeah,
definitely a god. What are you
but
talking about? You can see his nose. What the fuck? And then another village would be like, dude, what are you talking about? There's
there's
no
no face. It's
rocks.
just a
Yeah,
mountain.
rock. Yeah, that's interesting.
And it's once again, it's playing on pre-existing human condition, which is to see the faces, and also how the light can change perspective. Like once again, that's more I guess film related because depending on how you light the shadow, it can give you more, like a double chin, or can you flatten it, right? Make you more appealing. Hide your wrinkles, that kind of stuff. Not even makeup, just light alone can do that.
Huh, I didn't know that.
That's
Well,
how people sometimes look much more appealing in film than they look on like those premieres of the photographs.
yeah. Man, I need to learn that because every time I pick up my camera, I'm like, oh, that's how I look. Ugh.
Yeah, right. Sometimes you look at the face and you're like, oh, I don't want to look, and then it changes. Some things, whether it's the light where it's coming from, or the angle, or the shadows, how it falls down on your face. It can give you a couple more years, or make you look more tired, make you look more, you know, I guess appealing or sympathetic. It's all about light.
You know what kills me with in video, especially like when you're kind of like watching yourself, is that when you're watching, like when you look yourself in the mirror, which like most of the time you're looking at a reflection, is that you're looking at the same point of view as like you are basically, right?
Yeah,
So let's say if your jaw like hangs to the left a little bit when you talk or to the right or whatever, you don't notice that when you're looking at yourself because it's just like you're centered on that. When
yeah,
you look at a video and that, left jaw hang is now on the right, you're like, whoa, what the hell is that? What is my face doing there, man? Well, my
yeah.
eye twitches. What the fuck? Like that, like,
People generally don't like looking them at them like in the pictures, or like
oh no,
unless it's like
it
super
is.
pretty.
No, yeah, it is terrible. Every time, I mean, we talked about before how much we hate like well, I can't say hate, but how much like our disdain for like the whole social media thing and like marketing. I'm my God, I'm right there with you. I mean, I just uh
Yeah, it's a necessary evil. As much as you
necessary
hate it,
evil.
sometimes people take advantage of that. Like for example, you and I need to, if in order to make the careers out of selling your work, we need advertisement. We need people
100%.
to see them. And sometimes, the thing you were criticizing, oh, I don't want to see the ads for this product. Well, you kind of want to see people your product, right? Kind of
Yeah,
deal. So there's like a double-edged sword, right?
yeah.
I don't need your information. I just need you to get my book.
Man,
Yeah.
I dude. Well, that kind of leads me into what I want to talk about is how did that jump happen? You were talking about your inspiration came, but how did that actual jump happen? Like, what were you sitting in your room one day and you were like, oh, you know what? Was it a history channel like a documentary? You were like, yeah, caucus.
Yeah, I put it. I took a pencil and put it to my temple and connected it to my brain, and I wrote my first refrain, "The Testament to My Pain." That's my reference to Hamilton. People know I love Hamilton.
Oh man, I actually have that. I got Disney Plus. I gotta watch that. They have that.
Dude, it's so great. Now I'm gonna listen to it as soon as it's finished.
Are you being real? Are you being sarcastic?
No, I love Hamilton. Hamilton
Dude,
is
I'm
great. I'm
gonna
not being
watch it.
sarcastic.
I'm gonna
Listen,
watch
Hamilton
it.
is the shit. It's history, which is what I love, and it's rap, which is I also love, and it's Manuel, um,
Lin Manuel.
Lin Manuel. Yeah, is it Lin Manuel? Is Lin Manuel or something else? I don't know.
I
Regardless, he's awesome. He's great. I love him. He's a great Hamilton. I cannot look at him and not think of Hamilton.
oh dude,
Every
I'm in
time.
that.
Yes, I love it. So he's a big, recently he's been big inspiration of just listening on repeat, catching these small references, clever, comebacks, or clever, word structure, all that. It's great. I love it. But yeah, like how I came up with this, I just, once again, it's a Frankenstein's monster of just stuff I've read, stuff I was inspired by, stories I've, from my own culture, but also from reading from other cultures. For example, in my home country of Azerbaijan, in a city where I was born, the capital Baku, there was a tower called the Maiden Tower. And there was a lot of legends of how it was built, why it was built. And one of the legends says that the reason it was built is because there was a king, or which in my country was called Shah. And the Shock says, he was in love with some girl, and he's like, I'm in love with you, but she's like, I don't like you, I've got some other guy. So it's like a love triangle. And he says, I would do anything for you if only if you marry me. And she's like, okay, what if you just build the biggest tower in all the lands? So he builds the biggest tower in all of the lands, and then she climbs the very top of the tower, and because she had to marry him now, but she didn't want to marry him, and the love of her life was somewhere else. She decided to jump off the cliff and kill herself. That kind of like boom, boom.
Dude, you know what's crazy? There's actually a similar story in Dominican Republic, and believe it or not, it is not a fable. It's 100% true, and it's actually my family. It was my uh, great grandmother's. There was a dictator in Dominican Republic about 40 years ago, 50 years ago, named Trujillo. He was an animal, so he actually had like a huge disdain for Haitians because Dominican Republic shares an island with Haiti.
Oh, I see. I didn't know
So
that.
yeah, so he actually, well, yeah, that's the whole colonization thing we were talking about. Spain conquered half, France conquered the other half, fought it out for a little
No,
bit.
I just didn't know that is there some bad blood between Haitians and Dominicans?
After that, definitely he did an event called the River of Blood because Haiti and Dominican Republic are separated by a geological river, and
River of Blood. I'm gonna write down.
he supposedly changed the color of the water red by massacring, I think, like 50 to like 80,000 Haitians.
Make a note of that,
Yeah.
because I'll get back to that. So
Well,
you were saying about the legend that there
well,
was.
yeah. So no, it's not even legend. It's 100% true.
Oh yeah, sorry.
So this dude, obviously huge animal dictator, and for whatever reason, he got like a fondness for one of my great grandmothers, and she had like a sister. They were like the sister. They call her the mariposas for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm.
It means like butterflies. And they
So
actually
what are
made
they called about butterflies?
I don't know. It was just like a friendly group. Like imagine you just have like a friend, like a group of friends that you're just like, yo, we're the fucking skids, or like whatever. Like just
We're the
like
white boys.
we're the white boys, like whatever you want to call.
Awkward white boys. What's up, guys? Fix my glasses. Did you read the latest comic book from Alan Moore? Oh shit, that was lit.
You pull out your gun. It's like one of those things with the bang.
No, even better. Just put like a water gun.
Yeah, but like that's how what they just call themselves, the Mariposas. There's actually a movie about it. It's called The Time of the Mariposas. It has like Salma Hayek in it. It's about this exact story I'm talking about. And for whatever reason, he got asphyxiated with my grandma's. They were like, he was like, yo, let me get that pussy. And they were like, nah, go fuck yourself. And then he just kept on, instead of like the
Pretty
thing,
straightforward.
yeah, instead of the thing that you talked about, that they were like, oh, build me a tower, they just kept on rejecting it. And instead of, and to the point that he was like, all right, and he jailed them. And he was like, and then like, in jail, they were like, all right, are you down now? And they were like, nah, we'll stay in jail, fuck yourself. And then like, they were like, all right, we're gonna kill you. And they were like, all right, do it. And then they killed off the sisters one by one, and they never broke until they all died. And then 2 weeks after that, he was out of power. They like the fucking, like, that is what
That's
caused,
good.
yeah, that was like the flame that like sparked the revolution.
That's good. I mean, it takes a lot of courage to put your life on the line against the dictator. It's pretty tough.
Well,
But
the thing is, I can tell you is that it inspires a lot of my characters because I have that, and it's a stupidity. I'm telling you, most of the time. Well, like no, what they did was extremely valiant, but like how I interpret it now, without a life that like has that much like actual responsibility behind it, because like their defiance equals death. My defiance equals, well, a slap on the wrist, if that, right?
yeah,
But like it actually inspired like a lot of my characters, where like you would see like a person that's like dumb brash and dumb heroic, and then they just like fall on their face like right there, like as soon as they're talking shit, they just like immediately just like go and just like it's there's an idea that I like. It's like anytime you leave an irony for life will 100% strike. So if you're over there talking about like, oh, I'll never do X, Y, and Z,
yeah.
guaranteed.
You never say never.
Yeah, give yourself 3 years, guaranteed you're doing that, and you're gonna be biting your tongue like a motherfucker.
Yeah, it happens.
Life loves ironies, and the moment you give it like an
opening,
it'll be like,
history
yep,
books.
How about that?
It's gonna be the history books. They'll be like, "Told you, motherfucker."
Exactly. It's like, yeah, how you like that?
Yeah. But
So,
yeah, something you mentioned is about bad blood. I want to also mention.
oh, go ahead.
I would be curious what how Haitians feel about Dominicans because of that event. Because in Caucasus, as I said, there's lots of ethnicities, and there's not any exceptions to that. There's also lots of bad blood between different ethnicities. Recently, conflict been, I guess you could say, resolved or at least put on hold between Armenia and Azerbaijan over the territory of Nagorno-Karabakh. So there's definitely a lot of bad blood between those two nations. Um, so I feel like when writing it, that's something I also wanted to put in my story. That while I'm still paying respect to these cultures, and I am basing it off Azerbaijan or Armenia or Georgia or Circassians or Tatars or Chechen, whatever that is. While I'm still basing it, it doesn't mean they're all pure. There's definitely a lot of bad blood between the nations, because it just feels more true to them, to history, not maybe to them. I don't want to say to themselves, but through the history, because a lot of times a possible hero in your culture is a mass murderer in somebody else's. A person who liberated your people is a genocidal fucking maniac to others, to somebody else, right? It's that's kind of dichotomy that I wanted to represent in my book, and a lot of what if it is in my book is that it's that duality. How can, like, people are not duality not in the sense that they're lying who they are, but like they have both, they're both a hero and a villain that are in somebody's story.
Yeah, that's I 100% made characters like that with the character Commander Zako that I was talking to you about. I portray him in the light to make him sound, to make him read like a tyrant, because you kind of getting you're getting the other side of what's going on. But the thing is that you kind of slowly understand is that he's an elected official,
Yeah,
meaning that just about every person that you're not seeing, that you're not reading about, is in love with this man and reveres him. Like they had pictures of him like up on the thing, but like as of what you're reading, it seems kind of like a what's the word, controversial, but it's
yeah,
not. He's not but it's not controversial. It's just controversial to the elements of the story. But like
yes,
in the greater world that he lives in, it's almost not. And I love that dichotomy, that dichotomy,
yeah,
because again, it's the whole thing of making a character real. It's making a not a Mary Sue. It's like a character that you really, when he gets presented with a challenge, with an obstacle, you want to know what's going to happen because you're not sure what's going to happen because the
yeah.
character is real and actually developed.
And so something else to touch on that is that they themselves don't see them as bad guys. Not a
Mhm.
single, in my opinion, person sees themselves as like oh, I'm doing this because I'm evil. Nobody says that. I guess if you're real psychotic, but for the most part, when you have these people in power with big armies and dictators, they don't see themselves like they feel like they're benefiting somebody, perhaps themselves for the most part, or people they know. So like, but these people even have friends and families. Hitler had a family. He
And
got
a
kids
dog
and a dog.
that loved him a lot.
What's the name of the
Fraud line, I think, for his girl.
no, no, it was, his wife was Brown. I forgot her first name, but regardless, like, people that are seen as the worst scumbags of the earth, probably have people that,
We'll speak highly of him.
yeah, but really highly of them, so they didn't see,
Yeah, dude,
you
great
know
guy. I mean, his
that's
facial hair was a little weird, but yeah, dude. I mean, every time he got a drink,
yeah.
good guy.
What are you
Always paid a
talking
tip.
about? Hitler mustache? That's my Chaplin mustache. I'm Charlie Listen, never dress up as Charlie Chaplin. Listen, Hitler ruined Charlie Chaplin cosplay for everybody, because now every time you try to dress up as him, people think you're Hitler.
And you think it's a giveaway with a bowler hat, but you know what can you do?
Yeah, and I think you take it off, it's just all. But
Oh, my
regardless, like,
bad.
yeah, that's what I kind of took part, is that people in my world is that they are some, who depends who you depending on who you ask, that individual is either great guy, did great things for my country, or he's a fucking terrorist and he got away with it. He might have been a slave owner and he died, a happy life and never got punished for that. Or he could be a slave his own life, did something wrong one time, and now everybody hates him, even though he's technically a victim. Or sometimes good people have to resort to doing bad things for the greater good, or sometimes bad people doing good things and then use that as a propaganda to elevate themselves. Look, I saved the city, yeah, but you did it for your own selfish needs, or maybe you genocidally killed everybody and you kind of exclude that from the history, right? That's also another
Exactly.
part. So when I was trying to make a medieval fantasy, I was like, I'm going to incorporate all this. It just history is complex. History has always been complex. There's no clear cut answer who's right or who's wrong, except on a very, very few cases where you shouldn't be killing innocent people. But then the question becomes, what are those innocent people? What did they do in their past lives that makes them innocent, right? What about the sins of your fathers, right? If somebody kills person I know, would I, or like say somebody kills me, would my relatives go after them? Would my next generation go after them? Would that be fair? Where's the line between justice being equal and
And
balanced,
vengeance.
and then vengeance? Yeah, pure vengeance. That's too much. Like, is justify, if you getting to me justifies killing billion people, and and probably he would be justifying, oh, it's not on me, it's on you. If you didn't wrong me, I wouldn't be killing these billion people. So is an extension of my hurt, of your wrongdoing. I'm innocent, right?
Yeah. I mean, like what you're saying is 100% true. I mean, it goes so in line with everything we're talking about. It even goes in line with the whole thing we were talking about with the reason I love the Belko experiment and that level of like horror is because oh, geez, 1 second. Okay, sorry. So the whole reason I love that whole thing with like the Belko experiment is because it delves into that whole character experiment, into that whole character thing that we were talking about. You have good people that are forced into a situation, and you almost want to see it because, like, you know, there's the trope that like the quiet guy is going to turn into the complete psycho at the end.
Yeah,
But then you also want to see the things in between it, right? Like his friend who is a little bit crazy. Is he that crazy? Is he, is he gonna go, maybe he'll stab a dude in the neck, but is he gonna, strangle a grandma? Like he's gonna, what is the extent of humans basically? At what,
yeah.
how far will they get pushed in order for survival? And just that, I think it's just in itself is just is great writing. It's just it pulls
but
you
it, but
in
it's
immediately.
Yeah, but it's also like it's easy to write these things because when we're writing characters who can redeem themselves, right?
Mm.
When you're studying characters like a bad guy, it's easy to redeem him, like to write something that can redeem him. But it's a lot more difficult where, from I'm sitting in the comfort of my house telling you this. A lot of people who want blood are not in the comfort of their house. They are hurt. They feel being wronged, and perhaps for very good reasons, and you cannot take them for them. And because if forgiving somebody is so difficult, like how can you forgive somebody? Like if somebody kills your parent right now, would you be able to forgive them? Forgiving them will make you a better person.
Not in
You
this
know?
lifetime.
Yeah, but but like because I've seen some footage of some victim has been like they were in court, and the person being accused killed somebody they knew, but at the end they give each other a hug as if like I was able to forgive you. A lot of people cannot, and they'll probably want some blood and say, yo, my friend was killed because of you, I want this person dead as well. Why are you giving him just 5 years in prison or 10 years in prison? Right, it's all of these things. So my book is primarily about revenge, muddy history where who is the good guy, who is the bad guy is so unclear. And sometimes the easiest and the most obvious thing is to forgive, but not everybody can do that.
Yeah, I mean, like that's one thing that I really liked about like the action sequences that I got to like read is that it really seemed gritty. I mean, one
Yeah,
thing that I have like stuck in my mind is blood was spattering through his yellow teeth and dripping down his
yeah,
wire
it's disgusting.
his wiry beard and going down his muddied like his muddied flesh and dripping down onto the floor of
Yeah,
like shit and grime. It's like, oh my god. And like it's
what
just
is
like
this guy into? Ew.
yeah, but it's just so awesome. It's just like it's what you were talking about before. Because that scene, like the whole pit scene, is actually kind of it's almost like a trope. I might have not seen it in X-Men, but I've seen it in various like spy movies.
You've encountered it, yeah.
Yeah, it's a thing. Like especially like heist movies are good with that. You know, when they have
Yeah.
like the Ocean's 11 type of thing, they'll have like the guy walking by, and they'll be like the one guy getting fucked up in the bar, and he's like, and
Yeah, it's a typical cutaway.
yeah, like I I I just I love that sequence. So how did you get into the actual like the action, your
But the
inspiration for that? Like
honestly,
how did that come
honestly,
into?
the action was difficult because when you're writing the action, it's not the same as seeing it.
Yeah,
Sometimes it can be the words, specific words you use can get a specific reaction, but you don't know which one. Like, a word could get a reaction from you, but not from me, right? But it's in the proper sequence, they can get like a visceral reaction better than visuals. But at the end of the day, seeing something visually is always going to be more gruesome than describing it.
yeah,
So you just can't try to do your best. And I think a lot of people pointed out that, you know, but the main point is that I was not trying to glorify violence. Violence is always violent and it's always hard to look at. It's not easy to do, and it's not easy to physically. Not everybody can, kill somebody. It's simple as that. And I don't know, even if in a extreme scenarios where it's your life or somebody else's, you're willing to do that. So like when I was describing violence, I purposely made it look ugly, not for the partly for the sake of, I guess you could say, cool, but like not to say that it's good. It's always bad. It both, it harms, even like when you punch somebody in the face, not only the person who's getting punched is getting hurt, but also your knuckles getting hurt.
yeah.
So to me, it should not be forgotten that you're also in a way inflicting pain on yourself in smaller amounts, but still inflicting pain, right? And that's kind of my approach to action and violence. Whenever there's an action, whenever there's a battle scene, it's going to be bloody, it's going to be ugly, it's going to get dirty, infected, and you're going to be disgusted by it. And it's not like, yeah, go kick his ass. It's going to be more like, oh, dude, this hurts you and him, right? And you shouldn't be forgetting that, because they're all human. There's no like, there's not really a Wolverine like character where they can heal from their wounds magically. Every single stab wound on the main character is going to be continued throughout his entire life in this book and past that. So
And it's a problem. They don't have a quick doctor that they can get like antiseptic or whatever the fuck. That's a thing. If it gets infected, that's a problem. That's a staph infection.
that's a quick death for you. A single
Yeah,
arrow. Back in medieval time, but you're fucked, man.
yeah.
Not because you can either get the blood just kind of flows too much out of your body and you die from uh, blood, like getting out of your body, or you can just die from the infection that gets into your bloodstream because you were in the bloody mud, or because you're in the wrong place in the wrong time, or you just didn't get medical help in a right time.
Or temperature. Fucking
Or
like
example,
little things like
yeah.
that.
I was watching a lot of historical documentaries on the subject of medieval warfare. A lot of people died not even making to their destination.
Teeth. Teeth was a major body snatcher back in the day.
Yeah, you got your bad teeth, or dude, good luck. I mean,
Yeah.
they think they're fixing it. Oh, just put some
Cocaine.
arsenic. Put
Yeah.
arsenic.
That was their treatments for things back in the day were
I
insane.
was listen.
Oh, dude, cocaine. What are you talking about? You're fine. Just put
Yeah,
cocaine on it.
dude.
Whatever.
Like I wasn't.
Some meth too. You want meth? Whatever. Put them both together. Here you go.
It's sometimes fun to watch how like, oh, you got cancer. Well, I guess they didn't know cancer was because they meant this. Like if you got something bad, just put arsenic. Arsenic is a poison, especially in the big amounts. Put more of it. It's like, where's the logic here?
I saw a medical diagram back in the day that for cluster headaches, their solution was to like hammer in a stoop into the
Yeah.
back of your head, like take like a little like peg and hammer it in to the base of your skull or whatever. Well, not the base of your skull, because that's like the gray matter, whatever the fuck. But
Yeah,
into
and
like
just
into your thing.
out.
No. And then put a bird to peck at your shit. That's how you get rid of cluster headaches.
Well, yeah,
That was
everybody knows that.
Like, what are you talking about? No. Put fucking Woody the Woodpecker on your shit, and he's
Are you
gonna
a doctor
fucking...
here? No, then shut the fuck up.
Yeah, dude, look at my degree. You
Yeah.
see, I wrote that shit this morning. Can you even
Yeah.
write? I
Can you
thought.
even write? There's only 2% of people can write. Yeah, that's also another fact that I read that not a lot of people could write. So there was a specific person, only one in this, I guess not only one, but like there's a specific person who would stand up in the crowd and just read out loud what's in a law, so people would know what the hell that is.
Yeah. And in
Yeah.
Rome, they had the news. Their news was literally like a. I can't remember what movie does it really well. Well, a show Spartacus does it pretty well.
Mhm.
Is that they literally would have like like a fat guy come out and just be like Rome, and he would just say the news. He would just like and
Yeah.
then in Apollo
And
and
you
then
gotta trust him. You gotta know other sources. Like, how do you know he's lying?
yeah,
I
and
mean,
then the crazy part about it is that was like basically that was like the start of like Fox News or like CNN, right? Because like
oh wow.
the politicians would come up and be like, "Hey, all right, come here, Fruity. I heard what you said yesterday. Here's what you meant to say." And he was like, "Oh, what
Yeah.
do you mean?" He was like, "Oh, but yeah, look at these three
It's a
loaves of bread."
translation error. He didn't say kill all the Jews. What he really meant is that there's some bad guys, some good guys.
What can you do? I think he said something about Sue. Sue, Sue, that girl
Yes.
Sue over there. But wait, but that's not even a name in this time frame. Listen, all right.
Listen, the schematics, whatever.
Semantics,
Potato,
whatever.
potato, tomato, tomato.
But wait, we don't have potatoes over here yet. That's a Colombian exchange. Listen, who's this guy? Get him out of here.
Why do you ask so many questions? You listen, for the medieval person, you ask way too many questions. Execute him.
Fuck out of here. What are you,
Yeah.
Galileo? Fuck out of here.
Critics.
Yeah,
Am I right?
your name.
Yeah. But yeah, like also like they getting back to Spartacus, they wrote slurs on like the buildings.
Yeah, that's a
A
good one.
lot of them.
Yeah.
Drew
That
dicks
was a
on
big
that.
one.
I was
Yeah,
like,
Caesar. They would throw they would put like a
yeah,
dick on Caesar. Man, dicks have been, huh? That's been
yo,
funny to people
listen,
since ever.
listen, internet, you're not the first one. Sorry to tell you.
And cats. Fucking cats.
Oh,
Egypt.
people love
Egypt was
cats.
about cats, man.
Cats, we're all about cats, motherfucker. I don't worship them.
I was having like one of the authors I had in here does he does like African myth based fantasy,
Yep.
and we were like like having like a tangent, like can you imagine if like the fall of society is tied to like your language being devolved from like text into like emoji type hieroglyphics,
Yeah.
and then
And
a
they always
love
sees
of
cats.
and a love of cats. Yeah, can you
Yes,
imagine like
yes.
that's what lays into like the reset of society?
The aliens come in. They worship cats from the ancient Egypt all the way to the present.
and
Look
then
at their
it
videos, thousands of videos.
and then it just keeps on resetting. We just keep like
We keep resetting, man.
yeah, we just fucking like keep getting to a point. We bomb ourselves, and then people forget. It's like oh whatever,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
then we
cats,
just like
man.
start up again. Yeah, that is
Who
fucking
killed their civilization? Cats, clearly.
well. Then so and by the way, I have to give you another kudos for going
So many
in.
kudos. What is this? Can I put this on my bank account and cash it in later?
Man, if you could please give me the link and we can figure this out. Uh, um, but I especially today, I love how the book that you're writing is a one and done.
Yeah.
It's something that like it almost annoys me how the serialization is becoming like thanks to like Kindle Unlimited, how like you get paid basically on how many pages
Books is yeah.
like
And
how much
pages.
yeah and how many you knock out because the more people read your books and like if you put like little I heard a common tactic now is that authors will do like a like career
Cliffhanger at the end.
yeah no
The story will continue.
or well they'll do because you'll get if a person just skips to the end that counts as a full book read, so I guess people will do a thing kind of like oh they'll break up the book in a certain way like oh if you want to read the definition of what these meant they'll put they'll put in the first chapter and be like oh to
Yeah,
find
yeah.
with that out that's in the back. And I think that it is just destroying like like writing could be. It's just like destroying that kind of create like the creativity because you know it's
It's more financial move rather than
I
creative. Even though sometimes it can be creative.
and I understand the finance of it, but it's like that's what I guess that's why I don't like the idea that finance like limits a creative moment. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I like that you can sit there and be like, oh no, of blood and whatever. And even me here sitting, sitting here and talking to you, it's like, oh man, book two. And like, like we're tossing out ideas and you're still like, nope, one, that's how I like it.
That's all. Yeah.
You have to respect that. especially in today's world where people are just like, no, I'm just gonna keep on putting out. Oh, you like that? Oh no, here's nine more of the same thing, no variation into the story. Um,
Well, it becomes a question of diminishing returns. Like, is there? I rarely know a series that goes better with each book. Like, it's gonna be you got to be like one of a hell of a talent to do that. But a lot of like, especially self-published, because it's self-published, there is no indicator to get better. You just keep making more. And the other problem is that the more books you have, that ending is better be good. Like honestly, if
phenomenal.
it's look at what Game of Thrones did, that ending was subpar, and people were just like angry at that series.
No,
They're
it was
questioning if the whole series was worth watching if that's the ending they got, right? And
100%.
that was like
I'm in
a
that boat.
yeah, so I was like, so it puts a lot of pressure on the more books you write. How do I gonna wrap this up? And, so it's easy for me to keep you for like 100 or 200 pages and have you satisfying ending and call it a day, than keep stringing you along for more books to. I need to figure something out, and I'm running out of time. I'm running out of time. Another Hamilton reference.
Oh man, I need to watch that.
Yeah,
Well, it depends on the series because I've talked to actually kind of talking to the same person that the African based myth
yeah, yeah,
fantasy series. He actually has this whole thing plotted out and he has like 7 books, and but that is awesome because he has it plotted out. He knows how that's
yeah.
gonna go and it's sequenced in that way. What I'm seeing is that people just will, they just make a thing and it's like, all right, yeah, well here's like I never liked any story where there's a sequel that almost doesn't make sense. Where you watch like a sequel and it's like, all right, now that character that you liked it a lot, now here's this thing. Now he has a funky pet that talks and he has a girlfriend now. Ooh, it's like when they just add elements to
Yeah.
to keep on going. Like if you have something in line for the story and a line progressive, then 100% I want to follow you for as long as you want to keep on writing it. But if your
Well,
whole thing is just like, oh yeah, well we got to keep on going out, that something I don't respect as much.
well, two things that always bother me. Number one, it's why are we doing this again? In the sense that why is the character that learned their lesson in the past book all of a sudden forgot any lessons he had? Like
Yep.
the same goes to movies. Oh, but we learned that friendship is good. Why are we going back to that? Like a learner learns that it's good to be with friends, but now, like I guess that's probably like a good example would be Guardians of the Galaxy. They're like, oh, we're not a family. We work. We're just what do they call themselves? A bunch of assholes. And then at
Yeah.
the end of the film, like, no, we're a family. And then the start of the second film, like, we're not together in this. We're all different people. We're separate. We're all go different
Yep.
ways. And I'm
Yep.
like, but we already learned that lesson. I don't really see why we're treading this road again. I mean, I probably get a lot of shit for this because people like Guardians of the Galaxy.
No, of
Um,
course, but no, but you make a sense. And just to save you a little bit, I think they did it pretty well in Avengers, where they didn't have like that whole shtick of like in Avengers 1, they brought the people together and there was a whole bunch of strife, but at the end of Avengers 2, they respected each other. And they never
yeah,
had that whole like that dichotomy of like disrespecting one another. If anything, they get progressively more friendly. Like in
yeah,
other like and as the series progressed and the franchise progressed, they would actually like reference one another in like light. They'd be like, "Oh, Iron Man, oh yeah, he's a friend of mine." Like
yeah,
they
yeah.
and that was actually like really good because it's actually what you're talking exactly what you're talking about. If you never want to see your character like have to relearn the lesson, unless
Reset. It's always a reset. Like,
yeah,
let's learn the exact same because it worked the first time. I want to do it again.
exactly. I don't like anything that it feels like I was in the pitch room for. You know what I mean? I hate
Yeah,
like it's like I feel the network at the network guy at the end of the table, and he's like, all right, well, how can we up the stakes for this one? And it's like, all
yeah.
right, what do you mean up the
That's
stakes?
yeah.
Why don't we
They
work
don't
on a
care
new
about
project
the
that's awesome?
character. Yeah, they don't. The thing is, like, you need to learn a new lesson. Like, it's fine. Let's say we learned that friendship is good, but let's still learn a new lesson. Could be racism is bad. Oh wow, I mean, duh, but um, at least they learn it. At least there's something new. At least you can appreciate that there's a new lesson to learn, especially when you're writing a young adult series of books. Let them explore new things. Harry Potter. There's always something new that they learn. The whole thing is an allegory for growing up and going through puberty, and there's a legit part of that where they're going through puberty. So it's like, okay, that makes sense. But if it's always the same lesson learned over and over again, that means the characters don't grow. They don't feel real anymore. You, I would give you an excuse to do it again if there's a really good reason. but so far we rarely seen that reason. And it not like a stupid reason like, oh, he's got amnesia, that's dumb, get out of here, get
I
the
hate
fuck out
that.
of here. We all know at some point he's going to remember it. It's so dumb. um or let's say he learns it again, because sometimes you need to he's need, some lessons need to be learned twice. Fine, maybe you can make that excuse, but it's also a really weak excuse. you know these are fictional characters that should learn by now. It's only humans that never learn. um so
Or
yeah, you need to
I,
have a
I think it works maybe if you change the scope of it, right? Like if the movie ends where the character was trying to learn the lesson, but at the end just still doesn't learn it, and
yeah.
then maybe you kind of like repurpose the situation again, maybe. But
Or
even
don't
then,
escalate. Yeah, like for example, like Avengers movies, right? They go from saving the world when they're together to personal stakes in their individual films, right? Thor
yeah,
going
that's
to his
true.
individual stakes. Everybody, yeah. So it's like, once again, change of the scale. Don't always go up, up, and up. How, because you can only going to reach the ceiling point. You already saved the world. You saved the galaxy. You saved the space time
The universe,
continuum.
yeah, all this crazy
You
shit.
saved everything and ever existed in every timeline. Like, how much far you go, right? At some point, it has to be personal. Like, I want to find my mom. Where is she? Right? That's personal.
Yeah, that's
All of
true.
a sudden, go, oh shit, that's still unresolved. He saved the world, but mom is still lost. A good example would be Avatar: The Last Airbender. At the end of it, they
God,
saved the
what a good
world.
show, huh?
Fantastic.
Ah,
On Netflix now.
I
Save
twice watched it
He's
already.
saved the world, but there's still unresolved questions. What happened to uh, Zuko's mother? Is it who's the Fire Lord?
Uh,
Fuck. Zuko?
no,
No,
it is
not
Zuko.
Zuko. That's Zuko.
Yeah,
Zuko. Yeah,
Prince Zuko.
Prince Zuko. Yeah, Prince Zuko. Sokka. Sorry, I was confusing Sokka. I was trying to combine
Yeah,
Sokka
yeah, yeah.
and
At first,
uh,
I was thinking that too. If you can, when
yeah,
you
yeah.
first said it, I thought of
No, Zuko. It's not
the
the S,
knot
it's the Z.
with the
Sorry, my
blue.
bad, my bad.
Yeah,
Yeah, Zuko. Zuko is still like at the end of that series, he goes to his father and is like, "Where is my mother?" Right? Big
yeah.
question.
And
Actually, was
they didn't answer in Qatar either. Those bastards.
yeah. So I was like, okay, so there is definitely some more personal stories, not save the world kind of stories, but like personal, individual, character-driven stories that you can tell, right? So there is that at the end. So, and I feel like a lot of after the first, like for example, the or maybe logical sequel. Hunger Games did not start as a series; it started as a one and done book. It's only later it became a phenomenon that it was, and then died off again. But the first book, if you read that first book, you can finish right there. The world is still in danger, but she as a hero, she survived. She did her journey is completed. The whole world is still fucked, and its base society is still pretty idiotic, but it's kind of a resolution of some kind. So there, see how the next book is like, oh, there's a quarter quell where individual winners of the previous Hunger Games now in the same pool. It's almost like that's sort of upping the stakes because now they draw her back into this survival world. So
And
it's a
I
clever
was
way to do it.
I was actually gonna. Can you believe it or not? I was actually gonna bring that up, but I feel like Hunger Games is almost like controversial. A lot of people like either like love it or hate it.
I like
I
it.
I love that series. For what you were saying is that like they did it right, and that the first one you have this concept, and the second one they did it right not only because they upped the stakes, but because the characters knew it was bullshit too.
Yeah.
Like,
Once again, how do you up the stakes?
yeah,
Now you have the winners, and that's oh shit, they're like super. They're the top of the top dogs, man. It's like
yeah,
a Champions League of the soccer league.
yeah, and it really does make you think because it's like the whole thing of like, all right, the Hunger Games in essence were just people untrained killing each other. Now it's like the whole idea of like now they're trained and now like the whole environment is way more deadly against you. And the whole thing that they themselves are like, now this is bullshit. Like they're actually making
Yeah.
us do this. Like everyone, like no one thinks that it's fair. And like it's almost I like it because it's almost like a fourth wall break. Because I feel like when you read it, you'd be like, oh, another fucking Hunger Games.
Yeah.
But the characters themselves are
You
like, yeah,
could
can you
argue that
believe
it's
it?
you
It's
could argue that it's treading the same water. Oh, we're back in the this Coliseum where people have to kill each other. It's like yes, but the dynamic is now different. Now, uh, these top dogs and they really want to kill you. Now you're a target. Like if you were one
yes.
of like you're one of the 12 targets, now you're the target because now people are kind
You're
of
that bitch.
elevating you to be this. you're that bitch. Well, yeah, you're that person that they want to kill because now you're the face of the revolution. Oh, new
Yeah.
stakes, new dynamic environment. So
And
it's
she
it's
doesn't
one of
even
the
want to be in the
he
revolution.
doesn't want to be. It's like, God
Yeah.
damn it! Like I barely survived the first one. Now I'm back in this shit. God damn it!
Yeah.
And then the third one and yeah, but there's a movie. There's a fourth movie as well, but in the book there's only one book. The Mockingjay. That's where she's more of like a. It basically changes everything. There's no more longer a hunt. There's no competition. It's more of a
It's just the whole it's the full
it's all
revolution.
revolution. It's not anymore. So that's the even though the ending sucked, kind of like, oh, and then I woke up and everything was great.
Well, like, yeah, well, that ended.
It's simplifying it,
It's one
but
of those things. It's one of those things that it just felt like almost too quick, because
yeah, it was too rushed.
that's what it was. Because I think the last line was actually pretty nice, because she was like talking to her baby, and she
Yeah,
was
yeah,
like she was like, oh, we can count all the stars and give them individual names. It seems like a tedious game to play, but there's worse games to play, and it's like, god damn, it's a pretty
yeah.
fine bitch. All right, gotta like give your hats off. You're like, all right, whatever.
Now let's make back to making TikTok videos. Woo!
Oh my god, TikTok.
The Hunger Game challenge.
Let me tell you. Every time I see a like, I'll watch especially on Reddit, I'll like watch a video and I'll watch the top of the video and be interested, and I'll scroll down, see TikTok, and be like, fuck yourself, and just like I'll stop whatever it is. I'm like, nope, not doing that shit. My god, I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, TikTok is
Just like,
not for me. I'm too old for that shit.
yeah, the shorter the video format gets, and the more like, like loopy, you know what I mean? It's like the whole thing that the kids are doing. They'll take like one little motion and just like and just like do that like 1,000 times. It's like, dude,
Yeah,
what are we doing? What are
yeah,
we
man.
doing? And it's affecting, especially that you're a movie guy, it's affecting movies. Like, if you watch older movies, they'll have a long shot with two characters talking, and that'll be the shot for about 4 minutes of the conversation. You watch a movie of nowadays, you can't do 30 seconds without bah, bah. And then it's like up the dude's nose, like, oh yeah,
It
I didn't say that. And then it's like up to the girl's like fucking vagina, like looking upward. It's like, no, I
Jesus.
didn't say that.
Painty shots. Gotta get those painty shots.
Like,
It's
it's so like,
it's
it's so
more.
cutty, and
It
it's like
is
trying
cutty,
to.
but my defense, if I had to play the devil's advocate, it's how we perceive film. Back in those days, it was very experimental. Seeing the image on screen was already kind of like mind blowing. Nowadays, our eye, like we can easily say that, oh, you just got to close up. That a person becomes more visually literary, like he understands that you're not jumping space-time continuum, you just cut into a close-up to emphasize their facial expressions, maybe because something important was said that made them their eye twitch, and that subtle movement can indicate, oh, I know something that the audience might not know, right? It's a visual language. Whereas back in those days, setting up a camera and just that they didn't know how to kind of reset the whole scene just to get a close-up, that's ridiculous. We have limited amount of time and space and energy to do this. Nowadays, we have thankfully can set up 3 camera shots and cut from the individual close-ups to a wide shot to justify that. The only thing the quick cutting becomes annoying when the new cut doesn't tell you new information. If let's say we're
Mm.
so the way I edit, or the way I was taught to edit, is to think of each individual shot as the sentence in the in the chapter or in the paragraph, and how you construct that order will dictate the amount of the emotions you're going to get. A good example is from Alfred Hitchcock. If you look at an old guy smiling and looking at a young child, you might think, oh, that's so sweet. He's looking at the child. Maybe he thinks about some thoughts of how he was young, and maybe or passage of time. More positive feelings.
Mm-hmm.
But if all of a sudden you look at the old guy smiling and we cut to hot young lady, you kind of think, oh, this guy's a creep. He probably wants to get with her, right? There's a connection. It's like a sentence,
Yep.
and it changes the meaning. So quick cuts are only like quick cuts also have like a meaning to themselves too, right? To this disorientated person, and disorienting person is affecting a viewer. So if you're cutting quickly, it's either because you're have no good shots because your actor is 40 years old. Oh no, your actor is 60 years old, and your stunt double is 40 years old, and he's doing things much better. So you try not to show his face, or you need more coverage for some reason, or maybe you're doing this intentionally to disorient somebody, right?
Hmm.
Once again, the sequence of shots is very important based on the feelings you're trying to extract from your viewer, and also the order, depending what you show in what order, can affect different feelings. That's why I said one of my I guess teachers, not teachers, but like I guess person that taught me. That's a teacher. What a dumbass move to say. What a dumbass thing to say. Um, I was taught that it's um, you don't finish editing the movie, you just run out of time. So
Mm.
your work is never finished. You're always just trying to do the best you can with the time that you're given, because the Hollywood is a machine. You only get to do you have a deadline. You got to meet that one deadline. You
You know
know,
what? That's how writing is too, honestly, though, huh? Because
sometimes can be
yeah. Do you have any plans?
on a
w-
sequel on the
Well,
franchise.
exactly. Well, since
All
we're
blood and steel in McDonald's. Happy Meal.
what the next one's in Spanish. Es
Yeah, very dry
sangre
eggs.
alma.
Ooh,
uh,
I like
well,
that.
what is your what is like the continuation of the writing? Are you gonna like delve into are you gonna dive into science fiction? Because that's why I think it's like really interesting. Because since you're kind of adamant on like the thing, that means that
Yeah.
you're not pigeonholed it into medieval fantasy. You can do whatever the fuck you want for your next project. What are you thinking for your what's up next for you?
I was thinking about like there's a positive negatives, right? Because like Stephen King, synonymous with the word horror. You think Stephen King, you know what you're gonna get. So when you're trying to build a career as a writer, you kind of think about yourself: do I want to stick myself just to one genre, or do I want to diverse myself and write whatever I feel like it? Because I don't like the stories I have and my ideas I have, they're not strictly tied to fantasy. Most of them are fantasy, but it doesn't mean I don't have a noir story. I do have a noir story I want to tell. I
Yeah,
do
me
have
too.
but there's this, can I tell a noir story in a fantasy world? For the story I have, it has to be the 40s. It has to be the start of the war with the allies, or I guess US starting the war with the Japanese.
Well, merge it. Let's see.
I don't think so. It's gonna
Starting into it, that would have been the start of Project Manhattan. So you can like do it into like this whole aspect that like maybe like that time rip that fucking Albert Einstein did or didn't
no.
fucking get
It's
into.
it's very specific to people and how they were treated back in those days. So I feel like adding a fantasy element is just, I mean, the real horrors of that story is the humans and how they treat each other, not the
Hmm.
any kind of fantasy element, which is why it kind of ties to our earlier discussion with the Lovecraft
Lovecraft
country,
Country.
country, yeah, where the real horror you think is the demons, but nah, the real horror is that the other shitty human beings.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the kind of like a clever subversion. It's the horror now, dude. It's you're happy when the monsters show up. You kind of go like, "Woo! They just saved my ass."
Oh man, no, man, Lovecraft is that's another one too.
Yeah, he
That
has
whole
a
mythos.
that's all mythos, and also the individual himself was like a shitty human being. But I'm happy that people are using his work as an inspiration and to put like a clever twist on them. Um, I kind of like that. Like, oh, you're taking something that was, you know, from a literary point of view, has a value, but as it's depicted, is really wrong, to put it bluntly. So I like that they're using it as inspiration, and not like word for word adaptation. Um, but getting back to like, do I have other stories to tell? Yes, absolutely. Right now, I'm writing a drama that's set in one room. The short premise is that it's going to be a short film, about like maybe 10 or 15 minutes long. Basically, it's about a guy who works in the suicide hotline, and he gets a call that will forever change his life. And that's what I'm trying to pitch to one of the filmmaking groups. And they like the pitch, so they say just write it down and send it to us. So I'm doing that. I have one horror story, two horror stories also. One is more sci-fi horror story,
Nice.
and the other one is more, uh, once again, more humans being shitty human beings. I
Yeah,
guess I'm not sure how
as
to call
as
that
we do.
horror. As we are, yeah, we're all terrible people. So even me, I'm not. Listen, for all those things that you might think of me, I'm also a shitty fucking human being. I'm
Dude,
not
me
trying
too.
to
I
hide
mean, what
it.
are we talking about? I mean,
Yeah, I'm
like,
swearing all the time. I'm not paying my. No, I pay my taxes.
yeah, me too.
I
Yeah,
just
let's
don't
not
release them.
exactly. Let's not get that. If the IRS is, if anything, I pay too much taxes. If IRS,
I'm in Canada. They can listen. They listen. In Canada, I'm not sure if it happens the same in the US, but every time that somebody calls me from like, you haven't been paid your taxes, I'm like, bitch, I paid my taxes months ago. First of all, the government doesn't call you. If you're gonna ever get a call,
it's already taken
they
out,
never
right?
they never call you. They never call you. Why would they call you? They never call you. They told you a billion times. The government will never call you for your taxes. So don't even just hang up right away and block that number.
You know what's my favorite when they call you talking about like your car insurance, and you're over there like, dude, all right,
I don't
let's
have a
do,
car.
yeah, no, you're over there doing some quick math, like, all right, how did you in fucking Tuscany, whatever the fuck you're calling from,
Yeah.
how are you dealing with my car insurance in fucking New England? How's that
How are
math
you
going out?
doing
You're
that?
telling me
Yeah.
you're outsourcing that? Fuck out of here immediately.
Yeah. Get out of here, man. Like, listen, I know I'm
Or a
dumb.
warrant. That's my favorite. A warrant. It's like, oh, the
Yeah,
police
yeah.
are after for your warrant. It's like, oh, and they're doing
And
house
they
calls
called
now.
me. And they
Oh,
called what? That's very
thanks.
nice of them.
Oh,
Listen,
that's
I am
real
so
nice,
grateful
dude.
for you. I'm definitely not gonna run away to a different country that I know the police is coming for me. Like,
Yeah.
where, where's the
Oh,
logic
okay.
here? Like FBI and I'm on FBI and CIA's list, and you call me. Well, that's very polite. Like, man, I listen. I know I'm a big deal, but
And you only want dude. $1,000. That's light work.
$1,000.
That's
Wow,
nothing,
dude.
dude.
Listen, I just killed like 1,000 people for this cocaine I sold, but that $1,000 is like a slap on the wrist, man.
No problem.
What am I, a president?
Oh my god, huh?
Yeah, I know.
Uh, fucking man. So I love it. So you have well, first of all,
But oh, this
you've
yeah,
mentioned it.
also something to bring up is that even if you said like even only because you're writing a fantasy story doesn't mean you can inject some drama, comedy, horror, science fiction. What else I have over there? Some weird shit in it. Like you can write within a genre as well, right? It could be the detective fantasy story. It could be you could still write it because it's not it should not be limiting me. And I think that sometimes I do feel like I want to deviate that because I have like other stories and I want to always have fantasy. I don't want people to expect. I just want to write a good story, and that story can come in different shapes and different forms. It could be a horror, it could be sci-fi, it could be about as long as it has something to say that I feel like needs to be said, I'll write it down.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a huge like, I mean, obviously, I'm a huge like engineering nerd. Like, I like that whole like science of like designing and like like it fascinates me. So most of my shit is sci-fi. The noir I
Yeah.
have is sci-fi noir. I have one idea that I've been kicking around. There's gonna be a sci-fi medieval fantasy, and that one's gonna be cool. Well, I might as well drop it. Who gives a fuck? Like, I was thinking
Scoop.
that.
I just got a
I,
scoop, ladies and gentlemen.
I was thinking that like elves typically have like long ears and shit like that. So I was thinking that like what we consider elves are basically what the future of humans are. Like when we meld it with computers and we make like this fucking like a other form of life that's not robotic, that's not human, that's like the meld of between the two. That I was thinking, I was like, all right, well, they probably would kind of have like they would almost look androgynous, kind of like how elves are, because the idea of like male and female would kind of like
They're
dissolve.
so sexually appealing to both
Yeah,
genders, right? So
yeah,
they're androgynous.
so a whole thing of male and female would kind of dissolve because they're kind of printed. They're not necessarily like like made in like a womb or something like that. So like that would dissolve. Their ears would be pointed because almost like a Wi-Fi type of thing, right?
Yeah, like
Because
an
like
antenna, right?
yeah, because they're connected in that type of sense, and then their form of magic, what they would consider magic, and it's actually something that um was inspired from my first coding teacher, was that he said that coding, when you get to at higher levels, basically is magic, because you write a line of code and it does something that you never thought would that like could be. And then like
Mhm.
magicians, like the same way that like high level coders are, could do shit with like a couple lines of code that you wouldn't even like you would think would cause like thousands of lines.
And a
So
lot of times, what is magic is it's a high form of
of a
something
technology.
complicated. Yeah, of technology,
Yeah.
right? What you
So
like in the words of Thor, what you call magic in my world is called science or whatever bullshit. Whatever.
yeah, exactly. So like what I was thinking is that like these AI elves, how I kind of like thinking of them, is that even their form of magic would be coding, because since they are computing, coding to them wouldn't be typing on a computer. It would be like a gesture, right? It would be like
Yeah,
a
yeah,
this is coding.
yeah.
So like magic to them, which is
This
like
is coding.
yeah, to coding, they would just do whatever the fuck,
Yeah, they'll
right?
be dancing in front of you, like.
And since their world is so technologically like advanced, coding also has like a physical ramification, so like it looks and perceives just like magic is. And then
Yeah,
orcs would be kind of like some like fucked up mutation that they try to make like a specific thing, and then it
you
comes
could say
out
like
as
it's
this like monster.
it's a failed hybrid between the AI and
Exact
humans. Only because
exactly.
borrowing from
and
Tolkien,
and
elves are
dwarves and everything.
disfigured. Yeah,
And like everything would have kind of like, instead of like the whole token aspect of like like they come from this fantasy aspect, I would kind of introduce the sci-fi element up to it. It's like, nah, this is actually like
yeah.
how they're doing it. And then the world themselves, I'd make it like almost like inspired medieval, but it would still be in that kind of like vein of like sci-fi and whatnot.
Yeah, I have a side speaking like on two things on the orcs and on the androgynous. I have one story set in science fiction. It's a distant future and there's a war with aliens. What an original story I have. Wow. This guy's called himself a writer.
In sci-fi, oh my
Slow
god.
clap. Oh my god. I hate myself. But the whole one of the aspect of it is that it's the future and there's a movie star, but that movie star is not a real person. It's a CGI individual, and
Dope.
that CGI individual is entirely androgynous for
Dope.
the sake because to make more money and to put more movies people in the theaters, they decide to make a human that looks kind of like in between male or female, so both genders can adore and idolize this fake person.
Yeah.
Because being in film, you kind of know how much CGI is taking over the um, in the industry. So I was like, okay, what at some point we're just gonna have fully CGI people actors.
Man,
So
that's awesome.
yeah, so
And
it's
then
awesome, but it also means we have no work.
uh well, like, I mean, that's just, I mean, Black Mirror, you know what I mean? Black
Yeah,
Mirror
so
is
it's
fucking,
basically it's kind of like Black Mirror.
yeah, I mean, I would say, I mean, God, I just thinking about myself, I guess I'm a fucking hack too. I mean, like, a lot of my inspiration is kind of like based off that idea. It's like, well, it's what sci-fi
We're all
is.
hacks, bro. It's just about concealing it. That's the original work.
Yeah, I guess so. It's actually
It's like a saying goes. So you're not a thief if you don't get caught.
man, I guess so, huh? Well, history's written by the fucking victors. Um Fucking the one thing that a teacher of mine said, it was like the whole like what the creation of sci-fi was, that he was saying that the big jump in sci-fi, like what like really made it like jump in sales and everything, and
Is it
like
Star Wars?
no, it was the Challenger exploding. Well, it was the atomic bomb going off. It was the first time
Oh,
that we
that's also
made,
like the birth
yeah,
of the atomic age.
yeah, it was the first time that we thought, it was like, oh man, we can make something that
Yeah,
can
and
have a
then
real
ray
lasting
guns.
effect of fucking us up. It was the idea that like we can like have a real no bullshit impact, because up until then we always felt like we were humans on nature. Know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
it, like that whole idea of like, oh my god, we got to take care of the earth. That's recent. That's the first, like, we're the first humans ever to think that we're that important, to like think that we have like a lasting effect on our environment, because like
yeah.
we know that we can now, and like, it's not a lie.
True. The
Um,
most powerful generation ever until the next one.
exactly. uh, so like how that fucking builds up, it's just insane. How
Yeah.
did that? Uh, you were saying earlier about something I didn't want to forget, the filming group. How did you find these film groups?
Uh,
How's that
well,
concept
in
even out?
Toronto, we have a film group, and I just go to like sometimes they ask like, "Hey, if somebody wants to, I need help with editing, I need to help with writing," and I try to extend my hand. Other times, I already know directors who work in the industry, and they just come to me and they say, "Hey, I have a project I'm working on. Give me a hand in that one." Or sometimes I find new people who need work done for money, and I was like, okay, I can help you out. It's mostly corporate stuff, a lot of times. Motion graphic design almost always is corporate stuff related. They have a new app they're working on. They want to present it. They're trying to pitch it to their investor, so they need like a quick video, 2-minute video explaining this thing. So I'm trying to put it together, working as a producer and a designer. So that kind of way. And I'm also like, once again, mostly knowing people get you places. And you cannot get knowing people if you just work with the same people. You always need to work with, diversitize yourself, working with different people, experiment. Sometimes doing for free just to see where it goes, because you never know. Um, a lot of, early on working with lots of students, but not anymore. Um, haven't worked with students in a long time. The last time I worked with students was probably when I was working with my ex, because she was studying in York University. So after that, not much since. Mostly working with people already knew, or new people. So that's kind of my experience working in the film industry. Was lucky enough to get invited to a few premieres of the movies I worked on, a few festivals. That was always kind of makes me feel important, even though when you show up at those screenings and the actors are there, the producers is there, the director is there, and you kind of like try to talk to somebody and you go like, oh yeah, I only know the director and the producer, because that's the only people as an editor you interact.
Mm.
You know everybody, like the actors, the set designer, makeup artist, because you've seen them in the process, in a cuts in when you're editing the film in BTS, behind the scenes footage, or in the outtakes. So it's always fun to watch the personality and having fun, but they're like, oh, but you sitting there from a distance, like they don't know who I am. So it's always awkward. Like, who are you again? Oh, I was the editor. Oh, okay, bye, bye, bye. You do your own thing. I was like, oh, it always feels sad.
uh,
um,
but like because I have a whole bunch of like different like film ideas too, and like different little like shorts and shit like that. But
I suggest start with short. It's easier to pitch the short. Um, the reason why, because if you're starting up, feature is a lot of work financially and just putting it together. I would much rather invest in a very good short than a very flimsy feature film. And also think about this as your pitching guide. Like, you're doing a short so you can make a feature. Your short is a proof of concept. A lot of films, when a lot of examples I know, like for example, The Lights Out. Have you seen that horror film?
no.
That film started as a short, from my understanding. And then the studio saw it and said, can you make a feature? And he's like, yep. So they made a feature. The same goes for
Children of the Corn.
children. I'm not sure of the Children of the Corn, but if that's how it started, then once
Yeah,
again,
it was a short story.
it's not a rare for the feature film to begin as a short or like a student film. From what I know, the Whiplash started as a short, or at least as a student film, and then got into be a feature. And we know how that ended up fucking benefiting the director.
Mm.
Forget blinking on his name. I know his name, but
Well, we're talking about it, so it's obviously affected him well.
yeah, dude, Whiplash is one of my favorite movies of all time.
Yeah.
It was that good. Um, haven't seen the other two films he made since. Not too big of a fan of, but whatever. He did La La Land, and he did the Armstrong movie On the Moon. Forget its name was, but yes.
Apollo 13, Apollo
No,
14.
no, 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 no. The with Ryan Gosling, where he's playing the.
Oh yeah, I have not seen that one. No.
I heard good things about it. I haven't seen that one. I've seen La La Land. Was not a big fan of La La Land.
Have you seen Nice Guys with
Yeah, I've seen Nice Guys. It was once again that was
That was a good
by
movie, man.
Shane Black.
Was
Yeah,
it?
I think it was Shane Black. It was like his fingerprints all over that film. Um,
That movie is fun.
it was a lot of fun. Yeah, Ryan Gosling with Russell Crowe. That was great.
Yeah.
And a little girl too. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was a good film.
Man, that is such an amazing like career trajectory that you got. So you have your medieval fantasy, you're gonna follow it up with either a noir or something like that. I mean, you have all your
Once again, how deep they're gonna get and how far in terms of production, if the regular person can find them, is once again big question. Because even the films I worked on, I can't even get my hands on them. Yet alone, giving it to us, asking a stranger to see them. I only have like a few clips only because I need them for my reel, my editing reel. And even those are just like a snippets from the film that where's the full film. I cannot tell you where it is. It could be on Amazon. It could be it's on my IMDb page, but outside of that, I cannot tell you where you can find them. That's the problem sometimes working with indie films. A lot of them just they're in the festivals and then they're gone, and then you don't know if they've been picked up for distribution or if the company just dissolved or they moved on to something else. It's always a in the air, so it's always difficult. Something else I want to bring up that's completely different subject. I'm just gonna give like I'm
No,
gonna do the
please do.
fast. I'm not doing the Fast and Furious on you. Just gonna revert to different topic because you also mentioned orcs in your story
Oh yeah,
with
whatever you want.
else. Um, I have a story that's a you know a love child of fantasy and science fiction where I have once again a futuristic society, but I have elves, orcs, and all sorts of weird creatures that I have like a list of. And in that world, I have orcs, and I thought it was really interesting, but maybe I'm crazy. The orcs they're all green traditionally,
Yeah.
but they have different shades of green, and the darker skinned orcs are not as respected as the lighter shades of green
Yep, makes
orcs.
sense.
And I thought that's like a commentary on racism. I've done some research, and I might be wrong, but there are some communities in Africa. I'm not sure which ones that they much prefer to be light skinned. And there's a whole thing about lighting your skin, right? I forget what it's called.
Dude, you're talking to the right. You're talking to the right nationality right here. I'm Dominican, so like we
Yeah.
naturally come. When we naturally like my sister is white, like even like tan. She's like white, and my brother is dark, dark, dark. Like my brother's darker than me,
Hmm.
and like I can tell you, my family's hella racist. Like it's just like
You don't choose your
not.
parents. That's all I'm gonna say.
Well, no.
You
Well,
love
no.
them regardless.
You know what? I say racist because like we live in like a progressive time, but like it's not racist in the sense that like no, there's like it's not hatred or anything like that,
Yeah.
but it's like
I'm sure a lot of people will be
it's
like, you
almost
cannot be racist. They're a person of different color. That's
exact
impossible.
exactly like well like the easiest way of like kind of like explaining it is that like you hear it in like my uncles and aunts, but like even like you can tell that it was like implanted, like they were raised that way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because like they'll just like say it in like a certain way. It's like, oh yeah, like that's like hella dark skin or like things like
Yeah.
that. It's like, but it's never like it's almost funny because it's like, dude, like your own son is darker than the person
Yeah.
you're like putting into
Do you
question
not
right
see the
now. Do you
hypocrisy?
not see the hypocrisy going on
Yeah.
here? And the thing is that they do, like that's the thing. It's just one of those things that it's just like, yeah, I know. It's just fucking like what are you gonna do? But then you see him and but like in the same way, I guess that's like why like the whole progressive moment is like kind of like weird, especially just from my point of view, because it's like I see that, but I've never seen like racism like intently. I've never seen like my uncle, like I've never seen like an uncle or anyone from my family just been like like actually like oh no, don't do that or anything like that. People they interact with any color, any race as equally as they do with
Yeah.
any. But it's just I guess kind of like that whole like like a guy in a black guy in a hooded in a black hoodie walks by and you like lock your
Hmm.
door. Why would you lock your door? Would you do that for a white guy? It's like that whole
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. Listen, hoodie's really stylish. I know. I played a lot of Assassin's Creed. Man, everybody's wearing a hoodie.
Yeah, but it's a white hoodie.
And it's a white person wearing it, isn't it?
What?
I got you. I was like, name me one Assassin's Creed game with the black protagonist. I was like,
And they
it's fine.
did. They didn't. They did
But
that.
they had indigenous in the third one. Aboriginal. Well, he was mixed, right? Because there was his father was an Englishman and his mother was a Native American.
Yeah, yeah.
But that's the only one I know of. Oh no, the black one was the Egyptian one. But there was no way they would put a white guy in Egyptian time, especially with that period of time. Fuck no.
Oh my, I got it. Even just that. I mean, like if you watch any movie, well, I guess like nowadays we're getting better at it. But if you like Cleopatra was played by, I can't remember
Is it Elizabeth something?
yeah, she like she's famous.
She was white. Yeah, she was white.
I can't believe I can't like like she's like she was the one. I'm pretty sure like her I think her perfume is like still sold heavily. Elizabeth
Elizabeth something.
Damn.
I don't know. But
Whatever.
regardless, we know it. That
Yeah,
was, I
exactly.
think, the 60s or something. It was one of the expensive movies ever made at the
Yeah, it
time.
was. Yeah, it was like a huge like thing, and she is literally like white. She is the
She's
poster
a
board
she's a
of
white
white.
American woman,
She
man.
is white, and we're talking about
Yeah.
Egypt, an African country.
Oh,
Like,
dude, you don't
what are
have
you
to go
talking
that
about?
far. You don't have to go that far. Exodus of Egypt. You have Christian Bale and the other actor. Like all they had black people in that movie, but they're all in the background as slaves or like the prisoners or like the warriors. All the main actors, all the heroes are all white. I'm like, all right, boy.
The Last Samurai, Tom
Yeah.
Cruise. We fucking damn, what's another one?
And yeah, and it's like, do we have a shortage of like Egyptian? Remy Malik is fucking Egyptian. You couldn't put Remy Malik.
It's crazy. Like it almost to the point that it almost like doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
But I guess there is like the progressive switch
Well, the
too.
sense is the money. The whole sense is that, well, can Remy Malik put as many theaters in the movie theaters as Tom Cruise? And the most obvious answer is no.
Well, then
But
it goes back and forth because it should be 100% a meritocracy. You know what I mean? It should be like
yeah,
based.
yeah,
They should say like we want a person that can fill these lines. You come in, you say those lines, and whatever race, whatever the fuck, gets that thing. What I don't like is obviously we're talking about all these things. I mean, Mickey Rourke played a Chinese guy in Breakfast
yeah,
at Tiffany's, a Chinese guy, Mickey Rourke. And I'm not talking about, and I'm talking about he played a full Chinese guy. Like they put tape on his eyes. He was doing the whole thing. And that
that was
was,
really racist.
yeah, extremely. And to them, that was like, that's
And
what
that's
they
like
did.
a very wholesome movie, isn't it? Like
Yeah,
if you take it
Breakfast
out,
at
it's a
Tiffany's.
wholesome movie.
It's in the Screen Actors. It's like in there. It's in the
Yeah,
Criterion. It's in
it's a
American
legendary
cinema.
movie.
Yeah,
It's
it's
a
in American
classic.
cinema.
It's with the American sweetheart Audrey Hepburn. Like,
Yeah,
how could you not love? It's full of charm and charisma, and then this shit shows up, and you go like, yeah,
and it's bad racist. It's not
it
even kind
is
of charm. It's
bad.
like
It
it's like
is. It's
oh
like the
wow.
teeth, like it's the teeth, the glasses, and the
Oh,
squinting.
I
It's
forgot
like
about the
it's a
teeth.
triple threat of
Yeah, I
like
forgot
Asian
about the teeth.
racism.
It is not. Yeah, it is to the point
If
that
only had a
like
calculator on his hand, that would be like it's like the killing.
yeah,
It's like a parody of racism.
but I have to say, I don't like this overcorrection that we're doing either. Whereas like
Yeah, there's always
we'll
that
have
too.
like the character, and now like you feel like you again. It's that whole thing that like you feel like you're in the pitching room, like you know, like
Yeah.
like you're here in the network going like, okay, but does the main character like where's our gay representation? Because
Yeah.
can he be a lesbian?
Can
Can he
we
have
make I
hair?
know he's straight, but can he be not straight? You know, can be
Yeah,
he
could he be
gay?
transsexual? Actually, that's polling real high right now. Can we do
Yeah.
that?
I mean, listen, it's trending. You have a gay LGBT character in your book. Sure, pitch it in. And I'm like, yes, I'm all for representation. I just feel
All
like
for it, but I don't get the
it.
selling aspect of it.
Yeah, I'm like,
Like if you really believe in something, it should just be your belief. It shouldn't be
yeah,
a promotion. It
yeah,
shouldn't be your selling point.
yeah. It shouldn't be because then that becomes more exploitative rather than genuine, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Dude, I see so many people that they'll say like, "Oh, I'm an XYC author." Why can't you just be an author, my dude? I feel like
you're just an author, right?
yeah,
Yeah,
like I feel like you're kind of like you're stepping on your own shoes here cuz like
yeah,
isn't this whole thing of this that you want more inclusion, but to
yeah,
make your inclusion, you make yourself little categorizes and then like call yourself that.
yeah.
But like
And there's like two
that's the
arguments, right?
opposite of inclusion.
Yeah, and there's an argument saying that, oh, there's a lot of stories with white protagonists, so you've got enough. I was like, yeah, but I also want to like,
Go to grievement, but you're
yeah, I
also
was like,
white. Like you write what you know.
yeah,
You know
you
what
write
I mean?
what you know, and and like, why can't I just? I mean, there's always an argument where it's like a white person solves racism, right? It's like it's a white savior shows up, let me tell you
That
what's
is
wrong with
true.
your coach. Yeah, I was like, I get that. I was like, that makes perfect sense, but like,
Yeah, that is true.
I also want to write about, I write about as many times about non-white people as I write white people. The story I'm writing right now is as a Chinese, second generation Asian person living in Canada. But I also write about people of color, people, black people. I write and not just African. I write Jamaicans. I write women, teenage girls. I've never been into teenage girls. Why I'm allowed to write about teenage girls. One of my most successful scripts, I guess, short ones, has a prominent black woman as a main character. I was like, okay, so like clearly it's possible, and that's and as a there's obviously a whole trend of like men's writing women, right? It's like I tried to deviate from that. Hopefully, nobody called me out on writing bad female characters so far, so I feel like I'm good.
I actually
Uh,
talked about that with
Pat on the back.
yeah, another kudos.
Kudos. Woo! Dodged the bullet right there.
Another one. That's actually another thing that Steve R. Gans, the guy that I talked to last week, that he was talking about was the whole thing of like women, and actually made me feel a lot better because I was kind of like talking to him of like, you know, philosophically I believe in all those things, but sometimes like I'm not a woman though, so there's gonna be
You're not,
times that
no.
I write a
There
thing
are
and
things
I
a
come
woman
off
can.
like I come off like a dumbass. I'm not sorry, fuck me, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I don't know everything, like, you know what I mean. I'm
Yeah.
I'm out here trying, but I'm not
There.
trying to be insensitive. And like he made
Yeah.
me feel better about it. He's like, dude, you write what you know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you can't get mad, you can't beat yourself up because you're not making, effective women. You're not a woman. Like, what do you want?
Yeah. And like a
Yeah,
woman
you're
can
right.
write there's something about woman that only a woman knows that she goes through, that I can only do my research. My only job as the writer, do my research. And my research does not even have to be the expert. I don't have to be an expert on medieval history to write a medieval fantasy book. I need to know enough to make it historically accurate or depicting it properly, but I don't have to be an expert. I watched a lot of documentaries, I read a lot of book on history. I don't have to be an expert, sorry. And but also I'm not trying to be true to this time. Sometimes I can, knowingly break something, and sometimes I can knowingly include it, knowing it's historically accurate because I'm trying to tell the story. This is not a history books. I'm sorry. It's not a history books. I'm not writing a history book. I'm writing a fantasy, and in every story, the main point is the plot. And if it breaks my plot or it doesn't serve my plot, then I have to figure out either to tell the different story or to try to make it work. That's my job. But it's not coming from the sense of exploiting it, but from the sense of trying to make it proper justice. And once again, I still do my research. If I'm writing a woman, I probably need to know some stuff that I need to know about being a woman. You know, it's the same writing a person of color, right? Is like I need to know what it means to be of that, and I cannot know everything about it, but I need to know and be aware of things that a white person would not be probably aware of that. It could be something as about the hair, how you handle your hair. My hair is pretty fucking straightforward scenario, but a person with a traditional afro, you know they perhaps deal with their hair differently. There's different way to styling them, there's different way of taking care of them. you know in many African cultures or cultures of black communities, their hair could be a signifier of um how you put them together, like dreads, traditionally more Caribbean, but also done in African cultures too,
Mhm.
right? How you handle your hair, like it's a big deal. One of the winning shorts from in animated shorts for Oscar, I think last year, was called Love Hair. It's all about hair. It's all about how a
Mhm.
person of color is treating their hair, and how how much that has an impact on them. So it's a big identify. I'm trying to put it properly.
Identifier.
Identifier of that person, right? Is their hair. You know, so that's something you should be aware of that. Um, so there's a lot of things to be considered. You can write Chinese person as much, too. And they don't have to be all good people. That's
Just
the other
don't
thing.
cast Mickey Rourke.
Yeah, they just don't cast me. I'm not sure if it was Mickey Rourke. I think it was somebody else, but
Actually, man, do I feel like
Mickey
I
Rourke is a
think
bit older to play that because
well, I'll tell you why. The only
he played
reason,
Russian in Iron Man 2.
yeah, he did, and man, he fuck. And then obviously like
He was
the
terrible.
fighting movies.
Yeah, he was in a wrestler. In the wrestler, he was phenomenal. But yeah, Mickey Rourke playing Russian was terrible. There's a line where um, one of the Hammer shows up to Mickey Rourke and is like, I'm not sure if you're aware, but I don't fucking speak Russian and I have no idea what you're saying. And I'm like, dude, I speak Russian and I have no idea what he's saying. His pronunciation was terrible. He was just like, and I'm like, what was that? Was it Mickey Rourke?
Mickey Rourke.
It's not Mickey Rourke. I
Yeah.
cannot believe that. How old was he back then?
Uh, let's see. Yeah, let's make your work, dude. 61. Oh no, played by Mikey Rooney.
Mikey Rooney, dude.
What am I talking about?
Oh my! I told you this
Yeah,
guy
you're
comes to
right.
comes.
You're
I come
right.
to this podcast as an expert on film, and this guy tells me Mickey Rourke played goddamn Asian guy. I was like,
You're
he's too old
100%
for that.
right. Well, I'll tell you why. It's because I'm Spanish, and because I still do that
That's your
thing.
excuse.
What I read, I'll read like a thing and be like, oh yeah, I know the rest of that word, dude. I
It's,
still to this day I pronounce salmon with the L, salmon,
that's
because
what I say, Salmon.
yeah, because I guess you're not supposed to say the L. It's salmon
What?
or whatever the hell.
Salmon? I've
Yeah.
I've heard. Listen, maybe on like Canada, I
No,
don't
I've
know
been called out
salmon.
for it, believe me, all throughout my life. And I vividly, it's like, hey, Dick, listen, I first read that word. That's what we're doing now. That's what it is for my
Nobody
life.
said
Salmon.
nobody said that the L is silent. Is there
They never
like
do
an
it though.
hour? An hour. Okay, H is silent. Whatever. I can get
Yeah.
past that.
What
But L,
hair?
they're still there. Yeah. Um, listen, I get it. We all white people look the same to you, especially when we put like a Chinese stereotypes.
uh, that's funny. Hey, I have this. I actually have your book up. I want to share the screen with the people so we can.
Oh, it's live recorded?
What?
Is it gonna be like a video?
Yeah.
Oh boy, you should have told me. I would have dressed better, the shaved. I've been
Well,
looking
no,
like an idiot.
I edit. I edit afterwards.
No,
I put like I put top and bottom banners with like
people are gonna
social media
see
fields and all
my
that.
background. They'll be like, "This guy, he's living in the basement of his parents." I'm like, "Yeah, man."
Yeah, but look at me. Am I doing that much better? Look at me. I'm just
At least you
painting.
have like a beautiful wall with a picture. I'm just like exposing my dirty laundry on
Yeah,
everybody.
on this side, this is like an
That's the thing I'm telling you.
this is an
I could have
Instagram
at least
girl's
had like
account.
a
Okay,
heads
you
up,
go over here, I'm
put like a
fucked.
fixed, like a pure white wall, just switch my table. So like, at least you can see my face. I didn't shave.
Oh, you should have done
The
a green
weirdest thing.
screen. That's what you should have done because you're good at video editing. You should have put a green screen and
Oh,
put yourself in a
dude.
black
I'm not
hole.
a Twitch streamer. I'm not a Twitch streamer. I'm just a regular editor. I'm not supposed to be on camera. I'm a post-production guy.
Well, I'm
I'm
fucking.
sweating
I'm
here.
a writer. I'm not supposed to be on the shit either.
Yeah. Just the
Uh,
podcast. Just use my voice. I don't care.
all right, I'm gonna share the screen out to the Amazon. Okay, so we have Blood and Steel. Check it out if you guys haven't. I'm telling you, this book is good. It pulled me in immediately. Uh, if you take my word for anything else, you gotta fucking take my word for this one. Check it out. You said that the free promotion ended yesterday, right, Seymour?
I believe so. Yeah. Yesterday at around 12.
All right. Well,
So sorry.
yeah.
Listen,
Sorry,
if we
you're
did
not
this
getting it for
podcast
free.
earlier,
Sorry if you're not getting it
it's
for free. Hey, listen, folks. It's still $2.99. You cheap fucks.
not only that, but it's also free on Kindle Unlimited. So if you have Kindle, it's a free grab. But if you don't have a Kindle Unlimited, then you got to chip in $2 or free, I
And
guess, if tax.
if you're stupid like me and you didn't set up your Kindle until you finally wanted to, because like, the first time you sent me the thing, I didn't have a Kindle account until I
Right.
actually went and did it, I think on Friday. But the first time you sent it, I just opened up a preview and I thought that I was reading the book through the preview. And
I
I
got
got
the
to
free book for free.
yeah, and I got to the end and I'm just like, yo, this one hell of a short book, bro.
Yeah, I was like, what's the point? What's the fuss all about? I don't
What
get it.
happened? I was like, no, I'm here with the hollow. I'm here. But like,
Yeah,
what
I'm
happens
here.
after? Uh, um,
Says 21 chapters. I only read two. Fucking ripoff.
yeah, this is fucking bullshit. But
Yeah.
seriously, $2.99. That is nothing. And look at the art. I mean, that's fucking cool. How to?
By the talented Felix Orist and the title by Sean King.
Oh wow, so yes, you got your title. You see, now that's genius because I feel like I'm running into that where I have to keep on going back and forth with the font with my graphic artist. I didn't even consider that one. That's a good move. So you got the
Yeah,
graphic, you commissioned the graphic by itself, and then you got the text overlay commissioned.
yeah. These two. So when I
Genius.
first
I might have to
approached
do that for
for
next
the
one.
art on ArtStation, I saw Felix's art, and I was like, "Hey, it's a beautiful art. You clearly worked on the book in the past. Would you be? I'm a first-time writer. Please, sir, would you kindly be polite enough or like generous enough to give your skills to my book?" And he gave me two versions. The second one, actually, that's the second one. The first one was good, but he oddly enough, he came back to me later, said, "Hey, I've got a new version," and I'm like, "Let me see it." This, and I was like, "Oh shit, that's better than you did last time." I think I was micromanaging him. I apologize. I realized my fault, because this is much better than what originally I had, which you can find in my history on my Reddit. Um, and I told, yeah, I was like, just put him like, I was like, imagine the most badass video game cover. I think it was back then. I was still basing it off God of War, and I was like, imagine God of War type of character, like a franchise of a video game, and make it like a badass, but include a girl with a child in the back.
Yeah, I mean that is right now I'm kind of in the midst of doing kind of a more martial arts, not so sci-fi based continuation of like the universe started with Allegory of the End, the first novel.
Mhm.
Um and I gotta say, I might have to look into that author, because that is just wow.
Mhm.
And I actually did want to specifically ask you like what was going on with that font, but now it makes 100% sense. You got it done.
Sean King, yeah, he did a
Sean
custom
King,
made.
wow.
At least that's what I assume. I like it. I think I might have seen it somewhere, but design's
What
still, worth every price of admission.
what
And
were the commissions on it, if you don't mind me asking?
pretty high. These guys, and I pay their, I pay everybody their rate,
Yeah, they're
and
fair due. Yeah.
yeah, and they gave me a slight discount on it because it's my first time, and um, they said it's fine. So they slightly gave me like a maybe 10 or percent discount, or 5. It's not a lot, so it's in terms of like impact. It didn't make much of impact on them, but for me it was a big relief.
Hmm.
So, and once again, thankful they were able to do something amazing. Eventually, occasionally go back and forth with them because I need to certain assets, because I'm making a trailer right now, a real full like a minute long trailer for the book. Um, once again, another way to promote myself on YouTube.
Hey, I'll fucking well YouTube too, but I'll definitely promote
It's
that
not there
around too.
yet,
That's
but I'm
awesome.
still working on it. So it got, once again, with these things, because I'm self-publishing, because I'm using my own money and time, it takes a very slow progress.
So
The
you
only thing that's not slow is when people want your money. They're like, that's what they're coming for you. But like other times, it's just like,
immediate.
yeah. Um, and once again, speaking of cover, I want to bring up the fact that the decision making it look like a painting was because I personally love a lot of, for a fantasy book, I want something that looks like a painting. Um, if I want a sci-fi book, I'm more inclined to pick something that looks more CGI-ish, more like a 3D-ish. Um, it
Oh,
feels like more appropriate for the genre.
mm.
Like as a whenever I pick up a fantasy book, I don't want it to be like a generic, muscly, oily guy with
With
six
a
pack holding
sword.
with a sword, just pumping. You see the veins pumping, like, "Ugh, I'm gonna, kick some ass, and make love to beautiful ladies. I don't want that. I like just original art, And I
Yeah.
think, if anything, the greatest accomplishment of mine is just asking Felix to do this, but it's all, it's all his work, and if anything, people like the art, and that's the first thing of marketing, just to capture people's attention.
Yeah, I actually have to. Well, we're gonna keep on like talking with one another on Discord. I want to show you a couple of the covers that I have, because I actually really believe in that too. I love like the whole art aspect. I've dropped a whole bunch of money on graphics, and I'm not even sure if I'll get the money back on them. But I just love the art, and just like it's like just having it there and just being like, oh yeah,
Yeah,
like
it's beautiful.
yeah,
I've got a physical copy, but it's a different room.
yeah. Oh God, if only we can drop that in there, that'd be awesome too. Put it in the thumbnail or something.
I do have a
But
picture, so I can send it out to you.
oh yeah, we'll edit together. We'll do all that cool stuff.
Yeah, I'll be like,
Uh,
well, edit my face out. I don't like. Can you put like a special effects? Can you like
can
shade
you
me?
can you edit in six pack? Can you do that yet?
Yeah. Remember there's a part where I show my six pack? You're like, no, you don't.
No, I did, and then like the
We
top
have
of
it.
the top of my 12-inch dick showed. You remember that? No,
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah, yeah. Just a public,
There was like yeah, there
just
was
like,
like there was like four models behind me. I
and
remember
that's
it.
what I'm soft.
Well, we've actually run it over a little bit, but before we cut off, I want to show
I
you.
talk a lot.
Well, we both did. But before talking about before we cut off, I want to show you those comic books real quick because we're talking about cover art.
Oh, dude, listen, I can show.
Yeah,
You know,
one
with the
sec.
comic book collections, hell yeah. Never mind. Too much.
No, because I don't even have a collection. That's why. It's like
Yeah, I've got a whole volume here, so, and single issues, volumes. I'll show you my favorite ones if I want to market any books.
so
Oh
like,
shit, it's Thor Almighty.
yeah, this is the Atlantis.
Yeah, that's the old shit you're bringing in.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a classic. Yeah. Does this has a there was an approval one by I forget what it's called.
Let's see.
Back in those days, they had to have an approval on
Approved by the Comics Code Authority.
authority. That's the one. Back in those days, they had to put it on, but later on, they took it out because nobody gave a fuck after a while. I think that's the beginning of the dark ages, but that's what they call it, or modern age of comics. That's more recent. Yeah, the New 52. I have New 52. Yeah, that's is that a that's after a that's not just Scott Snyder, is it?
No, Peter J. Tomasi.
Tomasi, yeah, that's the more recent ones. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
the
Well, I picked it up solely for that cover. I mean, look at that.
yeah, that's a great cover. Yeah,
Um,
I show you mine. I have one single issue. I want to show it to you. It's really good, and a couple of my favorites ones. I'll have a lot of them. Is that Superman? Yeah, nice,
Yeah.
nice. Legends of the world's finest.
Yeah.
Can I ask you why you picked those ones?
Well, I'm a huge Batman fan.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
I figured by the cup. No, 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 Batman.
Thor, it's just I'll tell you specifically why, because my whole thing is sci-fi, right?
Yeah.
So you tell me I'm not gonna pick that up.
Oh yeah, because of like a yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I'm not a comic book person. So when I saw this and I was like, oh yeah, I'm in. What do you mean?
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
And then I just picked up the rest of these out because out of the covers solely.
The cover does sell the book, yeah.
Yeah, and then I picked up a Ghost Rider because I mean, look at that cover.
That looks pretty sick. Yeah, sometimes like you want to pick a comic just for the sake of the art. Like the art is so good, you go like, I don't care what's written. I just like this. Like I just want to put it on the shelf and just face it.
And then a Doctor Strange.
Oh
with,
yeah,
with like all those like different.
Yeah, that's a very cool design. Yeah, that's very cool.
Yeah, it's awesome. I'm loving it, and I want to like continue that tradition into like bring it into books because like I love that type of shit.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like lots of graphic design is very good. I have a shelf like of volumes, and I have a single issues. The ones you have a single issues or back issues as they call them. I don't have anything rare except for one, but it's not really rare in the sense that it's expensive, but it's in the sense that I like the story. It's the story where Spider-Man meets his young fan in a hospital, and they basically it's a very straightforward story where they talk to each other. He's like, oh, I'm a big fan of yours. Here's my newspaper of you fighting the enemies. I love you so much. I just wish I knew who you are. And he's like, okay, sure. And then he shows his face. He's like, oh no, you're Peter Parker. And you're gonna go, what? He revealed his identity. And then he leaves the hospital, and then you realize he's terminally ill with cancer.
What?
Yeah, that's a very sad story. Its story was also adapted in the 1990s Spider-Man animated series, but instead of a boy, they decided to make it a girl, and I believe she was a girl of color too. One of my favorite episodes as well. But he has an amnesia in that episode, which is kind of weird. Or was it a different?
That animated show was fucking good. That was good.
Yeah, it's sick. It's pretty fucking great. That was what got me into Spider-Man originally. It's that and the X-Men animated series. Which, by the way, if you are into X-Men animated series, there's a book called Previously on the X-Men, written by the writers of the series, or the showrunner of the series, Eric Lewald, and his wife, which I don't remember the name only because I kind of remember his name. I don't know. And
oh my god, you're gonna get me too now.
Yeah, but I can show you like half of it right now.
Oh god. Donk.
I've got more, but like I
You
think
know what?
it
You
kind
know,
of gives you the impression of what a kind of a person I am.
you know what you're gonna do now. You know how like authors have like that picture that they'll like sit on their book like that.
Yeah, yeah. I'm just
That's what
like a
you got.
bunch of
Yeah,
none of this is mine. None of
yeah.
this is mine. I didn't read about write all of this.
When you get to the back of your book, that's what you need to do. Like one of these with your headphones on and everything. I didn't write any of these.
Yeah, that's kind of my collection. I can tell you, I have like Aquaman here.
Oh,
I
that's
have
awesome.
Thor. Uh,
Thor's a cool one. I love Thor.
I have Thor when she's not the Thor Odin's son, not the Chris Hemsworth's one that he portrays. I have the one that
The horse
has
one.
not the
What was it?
horse one.
What,
That's better Ray Bill.
Beta Ray Bill.
He's the
That guy's
second
cool.
technically. Yeah, he's badass. I have Jane Foster as Thor.
Yeah.
I have
Okay.
the back issues, and I don't know. I don't think I have the volume. Uh, Man, I should have faced it towards the camera because you guys can see everything right here. I have lots of weird stuff as well. Independent stuff. The Invisible, Aquaman, the Sinestro, Nailbiter, the Han, Star Wars, Irredeemable, Ant-Man, Bloodshot. Oh, here's Thor. This one is Thor. It's Thor and Loki Blood Brothers. It's a very good series. It's a
Oh
very
hell
good.
yeah.
Also limited. That's you can see it somewhere here. Yeah, it's right here. It's this one.
Okay.
It's a very good series. It's mostly from Loki's point of view at the edge or at the start of the Ragnarok. He basically defeats the short premise is that Loki defeats Thor. He's imprisoned. He's enchained, and despite that, despite being the winner, there's a prophecy that no matter how much you think you're winning, and if you are winning right now, the Thor will still destroy you and kill you, and it's gonna begin their Ragnarok or something like that. And the prophecy comes true because of Loki's ignorance. It's basically a self-fulfilling prophecy that you're your worst villain,
You gotta
and
love those.
yeah, it's a great story. It's very sympathetic towards Loki because you kind of get to see what a uh, asshole Thor can be.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, a bunch of stuff here. The Swamp Thing, the Amazing Spider-Man, as always. Um, Knuckle, what is it? Knuckleheads, also pretty good series. Listen, like if you want, I think I have a screenshot of all the comic books I have, but it has probably expanded since. I also have books, not to but it's on a different show. Like I have that's what a nerd I am. I have a comic books on one, I got books over there, and I got like my VR like on the floor. I was like, screw that.
That's awesome. I have a book collection too, but it's just books. Like I
Yeah.
said, I'm not really like a comic book person, but like
That's okay.
need to because like the artwork is just insane, you know. And
It's beautiful.
I love comics. I would say I'm more in a graphic artist person.
Yeah.
I have a lot of Neil Gaiman. Gaiman.
Oh, Gaiman, yeah, he's great. He was also a comic book publisher and a writer, and a
Yeah,
writer.
and
Norse Gods,
Frank Miller.
Frank Miller as well.
He did all the
Um,
recent Batman ones, really good. Well, not all of
he
them.
did,
Not all of them. He did the
yeah,
Dark
he
Knight
the
Returns.
Dark Knight Returns. He also did the sequels to Dark Knight, which weren't so hot,
Mm.
to be honest.
And then
Uh,
he did a version of a year one too, didn't he? I'm pretty sure he did.
is he? I don't think he did year one.
Not year one, like a version of year one, like he did a
Might be
Batman origin.
like every author at some point wants
Yeah.
to do this. I have this one copy. It's in memoriam to the victims of the shooting in the gay club. Love is
Wow.
love.
Which
Yeah,
one?
that.
Thousand Oaks in California? No, I mean
Yeah. The Pope. Wait. This comic book industry comes together to support the survivors and honor those killed at the Post nightclub in Orlando, Florida, June 12th,
Orlando.
2016. Yeah. That's the only reason I bought this one like online. Most of them I buy from the comic book store, but that one was for the survivors, so I decided to pay respect to them. Um, have you ever met any I guess no. I like to go to the Comic Con just to meet the artists and just have them sign. Um, I have Forever Evil, all signed by the artist. I have um what's the event called?
Well, there's
By
Comic
Hickman.
Con,
It
Dragon
was
Con.
no, like there's a comic book series I have that's signed by my single issues. I'll show it to you. Yeah. This is the comic I was talking about.
Wow, yeah, that is crazy. The art is the same as the one. That's cool.
It
Wow.
is, yeah. It's like a from was. Can you tell the year here? It's on in
Uh,
January something.
this is
75 cents, bro. 75 cents. I'll kill for that. If the
fifty.
comic books are so expensive
This is
nowadays,
1950.
dude. Like comic books are so expensive these days. This cost like a 75 cents back in the days. Right now, spot if you want to read any kind of big like superhero top five, it's gonna cost you like $3 or $4.
60 cents.
Yeah, 60 cents, dude. What time? I have this series.
Although, talk about the ramp. Look at that.
Yeah.
The one I just hold was 60 cents, and now only a couple years later.
Oh boy, yeah. This is my Secret Wars. That's what I've been thinking of. Hickman. Hickman is one of my favorite
Oh, that's a
writers.
good one.
He is a, and I have all of them. None of them signed. I'm still trying to find when he comes to Toronto. Hickman, if you're listening, come to Toronto Comic Con 2021. Make it happen. I need it signed.
Do it.
And bring the artist. Who's
All
the artist on
right.
this one?
With all the millions of people that are listening to this fucking podcast, get that shit on. Get that shit done.
Yeah. Buy if you have the money, buy the art. Buy comic books, buy books. You have no idea how, as an artist, seeing somebody else reading your work or even enjoying it or having it on a shelf, it's one of the most satisfying things.
Satisfying.
It's satisfying. It's so humbling and grateful, and it's not. I don't know why. It's just like if I would like when I see people like there's not too many reviews on my book, but the ones that I have, I'm just so happy about them. Like they bring the smile to my face. I'm like, okay, it was not a waste of time. It
Yeah.
it was a gamble. It was a big gamble. I probably lost more than I made, but it's very satisfying to see somebody enjoying it, which is really strange after like a year of writing it and making it happen, and and somebody reading it like in two couple of days and go like, I'm done. And I'm like, dude, I spent like a year putting this shit together.
Yeah. I mean, I'll tell you right now, the worst human trait, like the worst human emotion you could ever feel is regret.
Yeah.
And believe me, like there is no worse regret than sitting back and thinking like, oh man, I should have done XYZ. It's better to do it and then know for sure. It's like, all right, I did it, and the book, did so, and now I'm still, being a software programmer. However years
Yeah.
later, but you're happy because you did it. There's nothing worse than not doing it. So,
Nobody.
100, yeah, 100%. You got to go for your shit, and
Yeah.
even more so, you really got to support the people that go out and do their shit and you agree with that you fuck with, because there is nothing better than seeing your things and having people interact and be happy with your stuff.
Yeah. And like even like if like nobody can take it from you. Once it's out there, it's already out there, right? You don't have to like it's always going to be there. Not having it will not going to make it a reality. But since you already have something, it's might as well. And listen, if you want to, on my Kindle, if you want to share, you can get it. You can get it for free. Two, you can share it with anybody. So feel free to share it. If more people see it, that's better for me. I don't really care. I'm still making money out of the Kindle page. So you getting it for free. I'm getting paid. So it's a win-win situation.
Just don't
And
steal it, you grubby motherfuckers. All
yeah,
right.
listen, if you do steal it,
Seymour Zeynalli, he's the motherfucker that wrote that shit. Let's not get it
listen,
twisted.
listen. If you do steal it, I have a one caveat. You already owe me an extra star. So even if you hate it, you at least I deserve an extra star for that. Maybe not
Exactly.
five. Even if you hate it, so 0 stars out of 5. No, you gotta because you
It
got it
has
for
to be
free.
one now.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
free. That to me it balances it out, or at least give a positive review. Something so or like if somebody who wants to pick it up, gives like some spare change for me. I can get my Tim Hortons coffee. I need my caffeine. Yeah,
Oh man,
yeah.
so you guys need to check it out. Of Blood and Steel. You need to go and get it. Amazon, is it anywhere else, or is Amazon and Kindle the only place that people can find it?
Amazon is pretty much the only place you can get it.
All
At
right.
least that will make it me paid. The other
Hey,
place, maybe not so much.
exactly. So now you know, if you find it anywhere that's not Amazon, you hit me or him up and you go and find whoever that person is. And you don't do anything violent, because then we
Yeah,
would have to get involved and be a whole legal thing. And we don't want any of that. So you do what you need to do and just make sure we'll put a cease and desist
yeah.
letter on that motherfucker. Make sure we get our money right. And by where, I mean his. Obviously, it's not like I have any stake in this book.
You maybe the sequel comes out, bring more viewers. So I'll be like, yo, check out this podcast. I only have like 30 followers on Reddit, but I'm not sure if what I post they happy with. Just some random stuff. I've
Yeah.
been posting 2-sentence sadness. Are you on that Reddit?
No, what is that?
It's basically a first sentence is something sad, and then the second, when you go into the post, there's a second sentence and it's even sadder. It's like a 2-sentence horror. Like you write something down, and it's pretty creative. Like
That's cool.
it fires your creative juices, because you try to come up with a sentence that are misleading at first, but the second sentence is like, oh, there's a twist, and it's very sad. And I was like, oh.
Could I come up with a quick one?
Yeah. I can tell you mine. I posted like recently, I think yesterday.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead and give us a good one, and we'll end the podcast on that one. That'll be a
On
cool
a
note.
sad note, oh, dude.
No, on a creative note. Come on.
And the creative note. um, my calculations were correct, but I placed a decimal point in the wrong place. I watched years of my work, billions of government money, and 7 brave astronauts perish in flames from the Mission Control Center.
That's a good one.
I was reading actually.
That's a good one. That sounds like the Challenger thing, or like
It's a fun challenge. It's like to come up with something that's 2-sentence, but it's very sad.
Oh man, guys, Seymour Zeynalli, you need to check him out. I mean, I am hella invested.
This is how he bounces from the challenge. You see?
I am hella invested in this dude's fucking. I mean, I don't know how you're not after listening to fucking these ramblings. This dude's career is hella amazing. He's got the films coming up. He's interested in horror. He's already got that horror short coming up.
My life is a horror.
Hey, you need to check that out too. Of Blood and Steel.
I thought my life was a comedy, but it's a horror.
Hey, that's a good. Fuck, where is that from? That's a good one.
That's a Joker, right? I thought my life was a drama, but it's a comedy.
Yeah. Yeah. That's oh god.
That's a Joker fight here.
Yeah, just everything that he's doing right now, everything that he will do. You got to follow him. This is the end of the podcast. A.R.'s Tales. You know where to find us. Spotify, everywhere you get your podcast at Allegory of the End for social media, at Official Niatino for Twitter. You know where it is. Seymour Zeynalli, maker of stories. I was about to say master. Maker of stories on Reddit. Check him out. This is the podcast. Peace out, guys.